Paige Mercer took the seat beside my husband at my military retirement dinner, as if she had practiced the movement. She slipped off her cream-colored coat, draped it over the chair, and rested one manicured hand on the white tablecloth. Daniel stood behind her with his fingers on the chair back, smiling like a host who had successfully solved a seating problem. "There we go," he said. Her name was printed on the place card, not handwritten at the last minute, printed in the same dark blue script as everyone else's. Mine was on Daniel's other side. Across the table, my friend Marisol went still with a dinner roll halfway to her plate. Daniel's sister Beth stared at Paige, then at me. My mother kept rearranging the silverware because she had always believed a problem could be embarrassed into disappearing if enough people pretended not to see it. Paige looked up at me. "I hope this is okay." I knew what her perfume smelled like on my husband's shirt. I knew Daniel had once called that perfume a cleaning product when I asked about it. I knew Paige had spent at least 3 nights in hotel rooms he claimed were booked for trade conferences. I also knew every person at that table was waiting for me to detonate. I pulled out my chair. "She's exactly where Daniel put her," I said, and sat down. 6 weeks earlier, I would have said Daniel and I had a good marriage with some damaged wiring. That was the phrase I used with Marisol when she asked. Damaged wiring. Not broken, not dangerous. Just a few lights flickering where nobody wanted to open the wall. We'd been married 18 years, long enough to develop a private museum of repeated arguments. Daniel said I disappeared into work even when I was home. I said he saved serious conversations until I was putting on boots or trying to sleep. He said I answered feelings with solutions. I said solutions were useful. He said, "That right there, Elena," like he had caught me committing a crime. And then he would make coffee in the morning and leave the last clean mug for me. Contradictions are what make betrayal so hard to hold. If a person is cruel every minute, leaving is a door. If he remembers you hate pulp and orange juice, rubs the cramp out of your foot without waking up, and also lies to your face, leaving becomes a hallway lined with doors you keep opening by mistake. My retirement dinner was at the Hawthorne Grill, a steakhouse Daniel loved because the waiters wore black vests and called him Sir. The private room was called the Jefferson Room, although the only thing presidential about it was a framed painting of a horse that looked disappointed in Congress. Daniel had chosen navy napkins and small arrangements of white roses. He had even placed an old photograph of me in uniform near the dessert table. I was 30 in the picture, standing beside a stack of pallets in Kuwait, squinting into sunlight with one hand raised against the glare. The photo had been cropped. Marisol had originally stood beside me, grinning and holding 2 bottles of warm water like champagne. In Daniel's version, I stood alone. "Paige saved the entire night," he announced once everybody was seated. The restaurant had somehow lost half the arrangements. The young waiter pouring water glanced toward the flowers, then wisely lowered his eyes. Paige smiled. She was attractive in a polished, deliberate way that made the rest of us look as though we had arrived during an evacuation. Her dark hair touched her shoulders in a smooth curve. Gold hoops, red lipstick, green dress. Nothing too loud, nothing she couldn't defend. "It wasn't a big deal," she said. "I know how important tonight is to Daniel. Not to you, to Daniel." Marisol set down her roll. Beth reached for her wine and missed the stem the first time. She was Daniel's older sister by 3 years and had spent most of his life translating him into a nicer language. Selfish became overwhelmed. Careless became spontaneous. Lying usually became embarrassed. "You're the marketing person?" my mother asked Paige. "Consultant," Paige said. "For Daniel?" "For several local businesses. Daniel's one of my favorite clients." My brother Cal coughed into his fist. His wife Denise patted his back, though the look she gave him suggested the cough had better not turn into commentary. Daniel put his hand on the back of Paige's chair. "She's being modest. Since she came in, inquiries are up almost 40%. 32, Paige corrected. He smiled down at her. "See? She keeps me honest." Marisol looked at me. There are people who can ask a full question by moving one eyebrow. Marisol could request a briefing, challenge the intelligence, and recommend immediate air support without changing her expression. I unfolded my napkin and placed it in my lap. I had spent 24 years in Army logistics. People heard logistics and imagined clipboards, shelves, maybe a woman frowning at a spreadsheet. They didn't imagine a disabled truck blocking a narrow route, 19 people waiting on fuel that should have arrived yesterday, or a captain demanding an answer nobody could safely give him. They didn't imagine learning that panic was contagious, but calm could be too. The trouble was, skills didn't know when to clock out. I could inventory a room before I understood I was doing it. 9 guests, 1 waiter, 2 doors, 1 leading to the main dining room, and 1 to a narrow service corridor. Daniel had consumed most of a bourbon. Paige's wine remained untouched. Beth was scared. Cal was suspicious. Denise knew something. Ruth, my mother, was choosing not to know. And Marisol was furious enough for both of us. The waiter began listing appetizers. Daniel ordered crab cakes for the table without asking, although my mother had mentioned twice that shellfish upset her stomach. "You like crab cakes," he told her. "I like them," she said. "They don't like me." That got a laugh, and the room loosened half an inch. Ruth Ward was 71 and wore her silver hair in a neat chin-length bob that made her look more forgiving than she was. She had worked at the same insurance office for 37 years and still referred to retirement as "my little break," as if she expected her old manager to call any day. She reached across me to touch Daniel's sleeve. "You did a beautiful job." "Thank you, Ruth." I told Elena not to interfere. "You did," I said. My mother gave me the smile she used when she wanted to call me difficult in company. "Well, honey, you organize everything. It's good for you to let somebody else do something." Beside me, Daniel exhaled a small laugh. It was the kind of laugh married people hear more clearly than words. I turned toward him. "What?" "Nothing." "No, go ahead." His eyes flicked toward the others. "I was just thinking it took an executive order to get you to surrender control. Those come from the president," Marisol said. "Ruth just uses guilt." Cal laughed for real that time. Even I smiled. Daniel didn't. Marisol Soto had retired 3 years earlier after 21 years in service and had since become incapable of tolerating ceremonial nonsense. She wore a burgundy pantsuit, silver sneakers, and earrings shaped like tiny fists. She had brought me a retirement gift in a grocery bag because she said decorative tissue paper was a conspiracy. Under the table, her shoe touched mine once. "You okay?" I moved my foot away, not because I was angry with her. If I accepted comfort right then, I might have needed it. The crab cakes arrived on a long white platter with curls of lemon and a small metal cup of sauce. Daniel served Paige first. Maybe nobody else noticed. That is one of the most humiliating parts of being betrayed. You become a scholar of crumbs, the angle of a body, a smile that lasts 1 second too long, a fact the wrong person knows. Paige knew Daniel had switched from bourbon to rye the previous summer. She knew he had started avoiding dairy before client meetings. She knew his left shoulder bothered him when rain was coming. I had introduced them 9 months earlier. Daniel needed help promoting ward renovations beyond referrals and yard signs. A neighbor gave me Paige's name, and I passed it along. At the time, Daniel kissed my forehead and said, "What would I do without you?" Apparently, he would have needed to find his own mistress. The waiter moved around the table taking dinner orders. When he reached me, Daniel answered first. "She'll have the filet, medium." I looked at the waiter. "Salmon." Daniel blinked. "You always get the filet here." "I don't want it tonight." Paige studied her menu. "Salmon," the waiter confirmed. "And could we get more bread?" Cal asked. "I didn't realize there'd be a hostage situation over the first basket." Denise nudged him. "You had 3 pieces. I'm under stress. You've been under stress since brunch. That waffle place was chaos." The table laughed again. Cal had always used humor like a pocket knife, sometimes useful, sometimes opened at exactly the wrong moment. He was 48, broad through the shoulders, and wore a tie that had already surrendered. Growing up, he had been the unreliable one, the one who forgot birthdays, changed jobs, lost keys, arrived late. I became dependable partly because there was an opening. When I left for basic training, Cal told everybody I wouldn't last 6 weeks. At my graduation, he cried harder than my mother. Now he leaned toward me. "You officially done as of today? 1100 this morning. So what happens tomorrow?" "Tomorrow happens tomorrow." That sounds ominous. "It's Saturday," Denise reminded him. "Saturday can be ominous." Daniel swirled the ice in his glass. "Tomorrow she starts learning how civilians sleep." "I know how civilians sleep," I said. Marisol lifted her wine, "Usually through important things. Some of us have jobs," Daniel said. The words landed with a soft, ugly thud. He smiled immediately, trying to bring them back. "I mean jobs where nobody makes you get up at 5 anymore." Beth closed her eyes. My mother studied the butter on her plate. For 24 years, I had watched people correct themselves after saying what they meant. They rarely improved it. Paige spoke into the silence. "Daniel's told me how hard the schedule was on both of you." Her voice was gentle. That almost made it worse. "Has he?" I asked. She met my eyes, and for 1 second I saw something beneath the polish. Not guilt exactly, apprehension. She had come prepared for me to be a certain kind of wife, and I wasn't following the description. "He's very proud of you," she said. Daniel put his hand over mine on the table. His palm was warm, familiar. I could see the pale line where his wedding ring had protected the skin from the sun during the roofing estimate he supposedly conducted out of town. "Elena knows that," he said. I looked at our hands. 6 weeks earlier, I had found the first message because Daniel asked me to check an address on his phone while he was driving. Paige's name appeared at the top of the screen. Still thinking about the elevator. The message vanished before I could open it. Daniel took the phone at the next red light and said Paige was talking about an elevator pitch for a campaign. I wanted to believe him so badly I helped improve the lie. "An elevator pitch isn't usually called the elevator," I said. He had laughed. "See? This is why I need you." Now Paige sat close enough that the sleeve of her dress brushed his jacket when she reached for her water. I slid my hand out from under his and picked up my glass. At the far end of the table, our neighbors, Jim and Lorna Bell, were debating whether the horse in the painting was male or female. They had lived next door for 12 years and had the rare gift of turning discomfort into irrelevant research. "I'm telling you, that's a stallion," Jim whispered. "You can't even see the relevant area," Lorna said. "The neck." "Oh yes, the famously gendered neck." Marisol snorted into her wine. The waiter returned with another bread basket. As everyone reached for it, Beth leaned close to me. "Did you know she was coming?" Her whisper barely carried over the clink of plates. I looked past her at Daniel. He was listening to Paige explain something to Cal, his face open and attentive. He used to look at me that way when I described problems he didn't understand but wanted to. "No," I said. Beth swallowed. "Do you want me to ask her to leave?" That surprised me. Beth spent her life softening Daniel's sharp edges, but her hand had tightened around her napkin. Before I could answer, Daniel stood. He lifted his bourbon and tapped a knife against the glass. The room quieted. "My beautiful wife hates being the center of attention," he began, smiling down at me. "So naturally, I intend to make this as painful as possible." Everybody chuckled because that was what the sentence requested. Daniel raised his glass higher. "Tonight isn't only about Elena's retirement," he said. "It's about everything it took for us to get here." Paige turned toward him with shining eyes. And I understood, before he said another word, that my husband had not brought his affair partner to watch him honor me. He had brought her to watch him take credit. "For 24 years, Daniel continued, Elena has served this country with a level of dedication most people can't imagine." He paused long enough for everyone to look impressed. "She has missed holidays, anniversaries, family emergencies. She's gone places she couldn't tell us about and done work she still can't discuss. and the rest of us learned to keep things moving back here. His hand settled on my shoulder. It looked affectionate. It felt like being positioned for a photograph. There were nights when I didn't know where my wife was or when I'd hear from her. I learned to cook, although Elena will dispute that. A few people laughed. I learned to handle the house. I learned not to worry when the phone rang at 2 a.m. Well, I learned to pretend not to worry. That part was true. Daniel had waited through deployments. He had slept with his phone on his chest. Once, when a sandstorm delayed our movement and I missed a scheduled call, he stayed awake for 36 hours, convinced the silence meant something terrible. Truth, used selectively, could make a beautiful weapon. So tonight, he said, squeezing my shoulder, we celebrate the end of a long chapter, not just for Elena, for both of us. This is our retirement. Marisol's glass stopped halfway to her mouth. Daniel either didn't see or had decided nobody else's face mattered. And I'm excited to announce that Elena will be bringing 24 years of leadership and logistics experience to ward renovations. The applause began in fragments. My mother clapped first, Jim joined her, then Lorna. Denise made 2 uncertain movements with her hands before stopping. Cal looked at me instead. Paige was smiling. Not surprised, not confused, smiling like someone watching a plan arrive on schedule. With Elena handling operations, Daniel continued, and Paige leading our new marketing strategy. We're going to take the company to a level I couldn't reach alone. He lifted his glass toward Paige. She lifted hers back. My husband's affair partner had apparently known about my next career before I did. Daniel finally looked down at me. What do you think? There are questions that aren't questions. They are traps with polite punctuation. I smiled because my body had been trained by decades of formal events, difficult superiors, and family dinners. I think this is the first I've heard of it. The room went so quiet I could hear the air conditioner shudder behind the horse painting. Daniel's smile held, but the muscles around it changed. We've talked about it. You've talked about needing help, and you said you'd have time after retirement. I said I would have time. Cal leaned back in his chair. Those are different sentences. Denise put a hand on his wrist. This time, she wasn't stopping him. She was steadying herself. Daniel laughed. Okay, apparently I'm getting ahead of the official negotiation. Occupational hazard. What occupation is that? Marisol asked. Optimist. I was going to say contractor. Beth stared at the table. Paige lowered her wine without drinking. Daniel raised his glass again, determined to recover control. The point is, we finally get to build something together. No more deployments, no more interrupted plans, no more army coming first. He looked at me with enough warmth that, for a moment, I could almost see the man I had married. To us, he said. My mother repeated it. To you. The others followed, some more quietly than others. I touched my glass to my lips but didn't drink. Daniel sat pleased with himself. Your turn. I don't need to make a speech. Come on, 2 minutes. I've heard your speeches, Marisol said. She deserves equal time. You may regret that, I told her. I regret most things. It keeps me humble. I stood. The navy napkin slid from my lap and landed near my shoe. Daniel bent to retrieve it, but I picked it up first and placed it over the back of my chair. I hadn't prepared remarks. I had prepared remarks for other people dozens of times, trimming inflated sentences, checking names, making sure somebody's 20 years didn't become 19 because a form was outdated. For myself, I had nothing. The white roses smelled faintly sweet. Beyond the closed door, the restaurant hummed with silverware, low voices, and somebody laughing too loudly in the bar. I joined the army when I was 20, I said. I didn't know what logistics was, I thought I did, which is common when you're 20. Cal smiled. I learned that almost everything people call effortless is being held together by somebody whose name they don't know. A meal shows up because somebody counted it. A vehicle moves because somebody found a part. A person gets home because a lot of other people refuse to lose track of them. Marisol looked down at her plate. I was good at that work. I'm proud of it. But I didn't do 24 years alone, and I don't want to pretend I did. Daniel leaned back, ready to receive his portion. I turned toward Marisol. Marisol once sat beside me all night when I couldn't speak. She didn't ask me to explain, and she never used my worst night to make herself important. Marisol's face tightened. I looked at my mother. My mother taught me endurance before the army had a chance. Sometimes that saved me. Sometimes it taught me to stay quiet longer than I should. Ruth's fingers closed around the stem of her water glass. Cal taught me that people can underestimate you for years and still be wrong. My specialty, Cal said softly. Beth taught me that loyalty can be generous. Beth looked up. And complicated, I added. She blinked once, then gave the smallest nod. I let my eyes move around the table, past Jim and Lorna, past Denise, and finally to Daniel. I'm grateful to everyone who loved me without needing me to be less capable so they could feel more necessary. The words did not sound angry. That was what made them impossible to dismiss. Daniel's jaw shifted. Paige stopped smiling. I don't know what comes next, I said. That's uncomfortable for me. I like knowing where things are going. But for the first time in a long time, I'm going to let the answer belong to me before I hand pieces of it out to other people. I lifted my glass. To 24 years. Marisol stood with hers. To 24 years, she said. One by one, the rest followed. Daniel stood last. He kissed my cheek when I sat down. To anyone watching, it was tenderness. His mouth barely moved. You could have warned me. I turned my face toward him. About my retirement? The entrees arrived before he could answer. For the next 40 minutes, everybody performed normal conversation with the grim commitment of an amateur theater company. Jim described a leak in his garage. Lorna corrected every detail. Denise asked Beth about the antique booth she ran on weekends. Cal objected to the phrase antique booth because, according to him, anything containing a Bluetooth speaker had forfeited the right to call itself antique. My salmon was dry around the edges. Daniel's steak was rare, although he had ordered medium. He complained to the waiter. It's fine, I said. It's not what I asked for. It's not your retirement steak, Marisol said. Daniel put down his fork. Can we stop doing this? Doing what? Taking shots. Marisol cut into her chicken. If I take a shot, you won't have to ask. Paige spoke before Daniel could respond. The presentation may have been premature. I looked at her. Presentation. The business announcement. I understood. I thought you and Daniel had discussed the broad idea. Daniel wiped his mouth with his napkin. We did. No, I said. He discussed it near me. That counts in marriage, Cal said. It's how Denise and I bought a treadmill. You bought a treadmill, Denise said. I bought a chair to hang clothes on. The laughter that followed gave Paige somewhere to hide. She lowered her head, but I saw the look she sent Daniel. It wasn't romantic. It was annoyed. For the first time that night, I wondered what he had told her about me. Not merely what lies covered the hotel rooms, what shape had he given me when I wasn't there? Cold wife, absent wife, soldier, who never came home, even when she was standing in the kitchen. The thought hurt in a different place than the affair itself. When dessert arrived, the cake read, "Mission accomplished in blue frosting." Marisol stared at it. Absolutely not, Daniel frowned. What? She's retired. Not dead. It's just a cake. And missions don't end because you found buttercream. Ruth sighed. Can we please enjoy one thing? I'm enjoying the cake, Cal said. The cake has done nothing wrong. Daniel cut the first slice and handed it to Paige. This time, Beth noticed. Her face changed as she followed the plate from his hand to Paige's. She looked at me, and I watched understanding arrive without knowing how much of it she had accepted. Paige saw it too. I'm not really a cake person, she said quickly. Elena should have this. She pushed the plate across the table. A smear of blue frosting marked the edge where her thumb had touched it. No, I said. Keep it. Her hand remained on the plate. Please. I don't want something just because you realized it was mine. Daniel's fork hit his plate. Paige pulled her hand back. Nobody spoke until Cal asked the waiter for coffee in the careful tone of a man addressing a hostage negotiator. After dessert, Daniel insisted on photographs. We stood beneath the disappointed horse while the waiter used Jim's phone. First came Daniel and me. His arm went around my waist, firm enough to pull me close. I kept my hands at my sides. "Smile," he murmured. "I am. You look like you're getting a root canal. Maybe it's the company." The flash went off before he could react. Then everyone crowded in. Paige started to step aside, but Daniel waved her back. "You did half the work. Get in here." She stood on his other side. Marisol moved behind me and rested both hands on my shoulders. The touch was solid, almost a brace. The waiter took 3 pictures. In every flash, I could feel the exact arrangement of us. Daniel in the middle, his wife on one side, his lover on the other, everybody else trapped around a lie they had not agreed to tell. Coats came out, chairs scraped. Ruth hugged me and said she was proud, then whispered that I should try to be nicer to Daniel because he had worked hard. Cal held me longer than usual. "You okay?" he asked. "Why does everybody keep asking me that? Because you're answering like that." Denise pulled him toward the door before he could push. In the hallway outside the private room, Beth caught my sleeve. "Elena." I waited. Her eyes moved toward Daniel, who was helping Paige into her coat. "I'm sorry," Beth said. "It wasn't a confession. It wasn't enough to be one." "For what?" She opened her mouth, but Daniel called her name. Beth flinched as if she'd been caught stealing. "Call me tomorrow," she whispered. Outside, the November air had sharpened. Marisol followed me toward the parking lot while Daniel remained under the restaurant awning with Paige. "You know," Marisol said. It wasn't a question. I watched Daniel lean close to hear something Paige said. He placed his hand against the small of her back, then seemed to remember where he was and dropped it. "I know enough." "How long?" 6 weeks. Marisol swore under her breath. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have shown up at my house with a shovel. I don't own a shovel. You would have bought one." "That's fair." Her anger softened, but only slightly. "Come home with me." "No." "Elena, I'm not leaving my car here. I'll bring you back tomorrow. I'm not leaving with you while he tells everyone I had some kind of breakdown." Marisol looked toward Daniel. "You're still protecting the perimeter. I'm choosing where this happens. And when?" I didn't answer. Paige walked toward a silver sedan at the far end of the lot. Before she reached it, she turned back. For one strange second, the two of us looked directly at each other across the rows of parked cars. Then she got in and drove away. Daniel approached, his keys clicking between his fingers. "What the hell was that?" he asked. Marisol stepped forward, but I touched her arm. "I'll call you," I said. "You'd better." She held my gaze until she believed at least half of it, then walked toward her truck. Daniel waited until she was out of earshot. "You were rude to Paige all night." I looked at him under the yellow parking lot light. "Get in the car, Daniel." He gave a disbelieving laugh. "See, this is exactly what I mean. You issue orders and everybody's supposed to fall in line." I opened the passenger door. At home, he followed me into the kitchen, still talking about my attitude, my speech, my refusal to support him in front of the family. I removed my earrings and set them beside the fruit bowl. He was halfway through saying Paige had only tried to help when I turned around. "How long have you been sleeping with her?" Daniel stopped talking. His mouth stayed open for another second, the last word still shaped there, then closed. The refrigerator motor clicked on behind me. Somewhere upstairs, a pipe knocked twice inside the wall. Ordinary house sounds. I had listened for those sounds during every first night home from deployment, lying awake beside Daniel while my body insisted the room was too quiet. Now the quiet felt armed. "What?" he said. "You heard me." His face rearranged itself. Confusion first, then concern. I watched him choose each expression. "Elena, I don't know what you think. How long? This is insane. 4 months? 6? He looked toward the dark window over the sink, not at his reflection, but near it. That was an answer. I pulled out a kitchen chair and sat. My feet hurt. I had worn low heels because my mother said combat boots would make the photographs look like I had refused to retire. At that moment, I would have traded 24 years of learned restraint for one comfortable pair of shoes. Daniel remained standing. "You've been waiting all night to do this," he said. "No, I've been waiting 6 weeks." His head turned sharply. 6 weeks? Since the elevator message. It was an elevator pitch. That's what you said. Because that's what it was. I reached for the water glass I had left near the sink that morning. It was empty. Daniel watched me notice, then moved as if to fill it. "Don't." His hand stopped. I didn't want service from him. I didn't want him pouring water while he lied, because then some part of me would remember all the other glasses he had filled and get confused. "The message made me look," I said. "That's all it did." "Look where?" "The old tablet in your office still syncs your photos." His expression changed again, this time without permission. Daniel used the tablet for estimates. He had complained for months that it was slow and outdated, but he kept it because the screen was large and clients liked watching him swipe through before and after photographs. 3 days after the message, I had gone into his office to print my retirement paperwork. The tablet lit when the printer woke. A photograph appeared in the corner of the screen. Paige stood inside a hotel elevator, smiling over one bare shoulder in a black dress. The picture might have passed for something she had sent him, except the elevator wall behind her was polished brass. Daniel's reflection floated in it, distorted but unmistakable, holding his phone. The timestamp was 11:43 on a Thursday night. He had told me he was in Richmond for a contractors' conference. Paige's public business calendar said she was attending a charity dinner 40 miles from Richmond. A restaurant charge from that same night appeared twice in our account, one charge adjusted later to include a tip large enough to impress someone. I told him all of it without raising my voice. He sat across from me. "You went through my financial records?" "Our financial records. And my tablet." "The tablet was open. So that makes it okay?" "No. It makes you bad at hiding an affair." He rubbed both hands over his face. When he lowered them, he looked exhausted. That offended me more than anger would have. He had been carrying something, apparently. He wanted credit for the weight. Nothing happened that night. Then what night did it happen? It's complicated. No, logistics are complicated. This is a date and a room number. He pushed back from the table and walked to the counter. His dinner jacket pulled tight across his shoulders. I had bought that jacket for our 15th anniversary after Daniel complained that his old one made him look like a magician. He poured himself water, drank half the glass, then stared down into it. It wasn't planned. Neither are most collisions. There's still a point of impact. It started as talking. Everything starts as talking. You weren't here. I looked around the kitchen. Where was I? You know what I mean. No, tell me. He set the glass down too hard. You were physically here. You came home, ate standing at the counter, answered emails, fell asleep with your phone beside you. If I asked how your day was, you said fine. If I told you I was having trouble with the business, you gave me a list. Did you tell me you needed something other than a list? I shouldn't have to submit a request form to my wife. You submitted one to Paige. His jaw tightened. The house smelled faintly of the coffee we had made that morning and the roses Daniel had brought home from the florist before the dinner. They sat in a vase on the island. The leftover stems, he said, didn't fit the centerpieces. I had thought that was sweet. How long? I asked again. He sat. 4 months. My fingers went numb around the edge of the table. There it was. Not 6, not one mistake. 4 months. A season. Sex for 4 months? He looked away. That's a yes. It wasn't constant. I laughed once. He flinched. I'm trying to be honest. No, you're trying to negotiate the size of it. Elena, what do you want me to say? The truth would be an interesting change. I was lonely. That's a feeling, not the truth. It is the truth. You brought her to my retirement dinner. She organized it. You invited your affair partner to sit beside you while you announced what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I didn't decide the seating. Her name was printed on a card. She handled the cards. And somehow she guessed exactly where you wanted her. He stood again, knocking his knee against the underside of the table. Do you hear yourself? Your analyzing chairs like this was some operation. It mattered where she sat. Why? The question came out so fast and so genuinely that I stared at him. Why, I repeated. It was a chair. Yes, obviously, in hindsight, it was stupid, but you're acting like the seat itself was an attack. It was. Paige wasn't attacking you. You're right. You were. Daniel paced to the doorway, then back. He had always moved when cornered. During arguments, he wiped counters, straightened mail, carried objects from one room to another with no destination. I used to find it endearing, as if his body wanted to repair the house while his mouth damaged it. She believed you knew she was helping tonight, he said. She believed I knew she was coming. I don't know what she believed. Yes, you do. She knows we've had problems. What problems does she think we have? Our problems. Does she think our marriage is over? Daniel went quiet. I felt the room tilt, not dramatically, just enough that I put both feet flat on the floor. What did you tell her? That we've been living separate lives for years. We share a bed. That's not what I meant. You keep saying that when you don't like the meaning of your own words. He reached for the back of a chair. I told her retirement was going to force some decisions. What decisions? About us. About what we wanted. And what did you tell her I wanted? I didn't speak for you. You did it in front of 9 people tonight. His grip tightened on the chair. I thought about Paige's apprehension when she told me Daniel was proud of me, the way she had offered me the first piece of cake only after Beth noticed, the look she gave Daniel when I said the business announcement was news to me. Paige knew she was sleeping with a married man. That fact did not soften because Daniel had decorated it. But she might not know she was standing in the same room I was. Does she think I agreed to a separation? I asked. No. He answered too quickly. Does she think I agreed you could sleep with other people? No. God, no. Then what exactly did you expect her to think when you brought her tonight? I expected her to help with the dinner because she had already done the work. I expected you to act like an adult. I stared at him. He heard it a second later. His face fell. That came out wrong. No, that came out clean. I meant I knew you could handle being around someone you didn't like. I had never told you I didn't like her. You made it obvious. Because I knew. You hadn't confronted me. His voice lowered on the last sentence, as if we had finally reached the technicality he had been waiting to use. I leaned back. So because I hadn't told you that I knew, you believed you were entitled to behave as though I didn't? That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. No, I said you didn't give me a chance to explain before tonight. I gave you 6 weeks to stop lying. I didn't know there was a clock running. There's always a clock running, Daniel. You just thought I was too stupid to hear it. He turned away. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. My earrings lay beside the fruit bowl, 2 small silver circles I had almost forgotten. One had rolled against an apple. The other rested flat. Daniel's voice was softer when he said, "Do you still love me?" I hated him for asking. Not because the answer was no, because it wasn't. My chest tightened, and I looked down at my hands. That isn't the question you get to ask first. It matters. Not more than what you did. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything to save. You could have figured that out before the hotel. He came back to the table and sat across from me. I don't want to lose our marriage. Do you want to end the affair? His silence lasted 3 seconds. 4. Elena? Do you? Yes. The word came out rough, almost angry. Have you told her that? No. Then you haven't ended anything. I can call her. Not in front of me. I don't need a performance. What do you need? I had been thinking about that for 6 weeks. The strange thing was that now, with him sitting across from me, every prepared sentence felt like equipment issued for the wrong climate. I need you out of our bedroom tonight. His eyebrows rose. You're kicking me out? Of the bedroom. It's my room too. So is the guest room. He looked toward the stairs as though I had suggested he sleep in the yard. And then what? You have 1 week. For what? To decide whether you want an honest separation or counseling. I just said I don't want to lose the marriage. That isn't the same as choosing it. His face hardened. And you get to set the terms? I get to set mine. Do I get any say? In whether you stay married? Yes. In whether you sleep beside me tonight? No. He pushed away from the table. This is what you do. You turn everything into orders, and you turn every boundary into oppression. I made a mistake. 4 months is a schedule. He stopped at the kitchen doorway. I could see him wanting to say something cruel enough to balance the room. His shoulders rose, then fell. Paige has never been in this house, he said. I didn't ask. I'm telling you, don't bring her here. I wouldn't. You brought her to my retirement dinner. That left him nowhere to stand. He went upstairs. A door closed, then opened again. The hall closet, linen cabinet, guest room, each sound traveled clearly through the house. I remained at the kitchen table until my feet stopped hurting because I could no longer feel them. At 1:18 in the morning, Daniel came back downstairs wearing sweatpants and an old gray t-shirt. His hair was damp from the shower. He paused in the doorway. Did you tell Marisol? She knew. Did you tell anyone else? No. Relief crossed his face before he could hide it. That was the moment I understood he was less afraid of losing me than of being known. Please don't turn the family against me, he said. I picked up my earrings. I haven't told the family anything. You know what I mean? Yes, I said. I'm starting to. He waited for me to reassure him. That had been my role in most of our worst conversations. Daniel would say something sharp, then look wounded by the sound of it. I would translate, soften, or offer him a cleaner version to carry away. This time, I walked past him. Upstairs, the guest room door stood open. Daniel had thrown his dinner jacket over the desk chair and lined his shoes neatly against the wall. He had taken the blue toothbrush from our bathroom and left the green one in its holder beside mine. The green one was newer. I stared at it longer than I should have, wondering whether he had chosen based on color, wear, or which toothbrush Paige might have seen in some overnight bag. Betrayal turned every household object into a witness with unreliable testimony. I locked the bedroom door. For the first time in 18 years, I slept in our bed with Daniel on the other side of a wall. Slept was generous. I changed into an old t-shirt, turned off the lamp, turned it back on, and spent an hour reading the same paragraph of a mystery novel without learning who had been murdered. At 3:07, I heard the guest room floor creak. At 3:19, Daniel went downstairs. At 3:24, water ran in the kitchen. I hated that I knew the house well enough to track him by sound. I hated more that part of me was relieved he was still in it. Before dawn, I gave up and sat on the edge of the bed. My retirement dress lay over the chair, dark blue and carefully steamed. The closet door was open. My uniforms hung along one side, arranged by type, my boots underneath. I had intended to pack everything away that weekend. Instead, I reached out and touched the sleeve of the nearest jacket. Nothing dramatic happened. I did not feel 24 years rush through me. It was fabric, slightly rough beneath my fingers, a loose thread at the cuff I had been meaning to trim. My phone lit on the nightstand. 3 messages from Marisol. You alive? That was dramatic. I'll revise. Do you need coffee or an alibi? 1 from Cal. Whatever is going on, I'm apparently awake now. 2 missed calls from Beth and a message from my mother sent at 1:46 in the morning. Beautiful night. Call me when you're rested. Don't make any big decisions while emotional. My mother could place a leash on a sentence without using a command. I set the phone face down. When I went downstairs, Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table with coffee and his laptop. He had changed into jeans and a blue work shirt embroidered with Ward renovations over the pocket. The shirt was clean enough that I doubted he intended to renovate anything. He looked up carefully. I made coffee. I can see that. Your mug's by the machine. The last clean mug. white ceramic chipped at the handle, left for me, as it had been on 100 ordinary mornings. I almost didn't take it. Then I resented the idea that he could contaminate coffee by remembering how I drank it. The pot was full. My mug was empty. "Did you sleep?" he asked. "Did you?" "Not really." I poured coffee. He had made it stronger than usual. On the counter beside the machine sat a paper bag from the bakery 2 blocks away. Daniel had bought cinnamon rolls, apology pastries. He believed frosting could lower the temperature of almost any conflict. "You went out?" I asked. "I couldn't sleep. You called someone." His hand paused above the keyboard. I called Paige. My stomach tightened, but I kept my back to him. And I told her we needed to stop. Needed to. "Elena." I turned. "Did you end it?" I said we couldn't keep seeing each other while I work on my marriage. That leaves a door open. It states exactly what's happening. It states that she should wait for the repair crew. He closed the laptop. There is no version of this conversation where I say something you don't dissect. There was. It was 4 months ago. He leaned back, pressing his fingertips to his forehead. She was upset. I waited. She feels blindsided. That makes 2 of us. She really believed you knew we were having marital problems. Knowing we had problems isn't the same as knowing she was assigned to solve them. I didn't say it was. Did you tell her I knew about the affair? No. Did you tell her I confronted you? I told her last night created issues. I laughed. Daniel's eyes hardened. I was trying not to humiliate you. You told your girlfriend my retirement dinner created issues, and that was for my dignity. I didn't call her my girlfriend. That must have been comforting to her. He stood. "Do you want me to be cruel to her? Is that what proves I care about you? I want you to stop making me responsible for how you end the thing you started." "I'm not. You're telling me she's hurt, so I'll lower the cost for you." He looked toward the window. The sky outside was turning pale over the neighboring roofs. Jim Bell's garage door rose halfway, stopped, then shuttered back down. His leak had apparently become the least of his problems. Daniel folded his arms. "I said I would do counseling." "No, I offered counseling. You said you didn't want to lose the marriage." "Same difference. It isn't." "Fine, I'll go. Call someone." "Today? It's Saturday. You can leave a message. I don't even know who to call." "You managed to find a marketing consultant." The cruelty landed. I saw it. For a moment I wanted to take it back, not because it was untrue, but because 18 years of marriage had trained me to respond when I heard him. Daniel nodded slowly. "There you are," he said. "Where?" "The part of you everybody else doesn't see." I set down my mug. "What part is that?" "The part that can cut somebody apart and still act calm. You slept with someone else. And you've been building a case for 6 weeks. You keep saying that as if the investigation caused the crime. I'm saying normal people don't do that. They ask. They confront. I did ask. You told me elevator pitch, and then you went through everything. 1 tablet and 1 bank statement. What else? Your face every time her name came up." He grabbed his keys from the counter. "Where are you going?" "To work. It's Saturday. I have a business to run, a business you announced I was joining. Don't worry. I heard you loud and clear." He left the paper bag behind. The front door slammed. 30 seconds later, his truck started in the driveway. I watched from the kitchen as he backed out too quickly and clipped 1 tire over the curb. My phone rang. Marisol. I answered before she could escalate to a forced entry. "Tell me he's still alive," she said. "He went to work." "On a Saturday?" "You say that like you've never worked Saturday. I had a real job, careful. Sorry. I'm trying to respect your grief." "What grief?" "Retirement. I don't know what else happened in that house because my best friend refuses to brief me." I sat at the table. He admitted it. Her voice changed. "How long?" 4 months. I'm going to need the address of a store that sells shovels." Marisol. "What?" "Gardening is therapeutic." I rubbed my thumb against a coffee ring on the table. "He says he ended it this morning. You believe him?" "I believe he called her. That was not my question." "No." The word left a hollow space. Marisol was silent for several seconds. "Do you want me to come over?" "No." Good, I'm already dressed. I looked at the clock. It wasn't yet 7. Why? Because I have a dog, and unlike your husband, she communicates her needs honestly. You don't have a dog. I could get one. You know what? That's not the point. The doorbell rang 25 minutes later. Marisol stood on the porch holding 2 breakfast sandwiches and a folded cardboard box from a hardware store. I stared at the box. "It's a lamp," she said. "Why is your lamp from Turner Hardware?" "Because they sell lamps." "They do not." She pushed past me. "Then it's none of your business." The box stayed unopened by the door. We sat in the living room. Morning light revealed dust along the television stand and a cobweb near the ceiling fan. I noticed those things because the alternative was looking at Marisol while she tried not to look frightened for me. "What's the plan?" she asked. "He has a week." "To move out?" "To choose separation or counseling. He already chose Paige. He chose deception." "That's not necessarily the same thing." Marisol unwrapped her sandwich with aggressive precision. "You always do this. Eat breakfast? Find the technically accurate sentence that hurts least. I'm not defending him. You're not defending you either." I looked toward the stairs. "He waded through a lot," I said. "That doesn't excuse this." "No, I was gone." "Yes?" I shut him out. "Probably." "You're terrible at comfort." "I'm excellent at comfort. I'm terrible at lying." I took a bite of the sandwich. Egg, cheese, too much pepper. It was still warm. Marisol leaned forward, forearms on her knees. "You were his wife, Elena, not a weather event he survived." "I know. Do you?" I set the sandwich down. She softened. "You don't have to decide everything this week because you're good at deadlines. He lives here. So do you. I can't spend months walking around him." "No. But counseling isn't a punishment detail he serves until you approve his release. If you want it, fine. If you're offering it because you think fairness requires one last chance, that's different." I looked at the unopened hardware store box. What's really in there? Small shovel. Despite myself, I laughed. It came out wrong and turned into something that tightened my throat. I covered my mouth with one hand. Marisol moved beside me but did not touch me until I leaned toward her. That was what she had always done, waited without leaving. I cried against the shoulder of her expensive burgundy blouse while she held my breakfast sandwich away from both of us. Afterward, she said, "For the record, this fabric is machine washable. Good. And ugly. You picked it." I was going through something. She stayed until almost noon. We packed nothing. Solved nothing. She washed the coffee mugs and left the cardboard box beside the door. Beth called again after Marisol drove away. "Elena, I need to talk to you." Her voice was low, hurried. "About Daniel?" A pause. "He called me this morning." "Of course he did. He said you accused him of having an affair with Paige." "Did he say whether the accusation was accurate?" "He said it was an emotional relationship that crossed a line." That line was a hotel bed. Beth inhaled sharply. I waited for surprise. What I heard instead was guilt. "What did you know?" I asked. "I didn't know that." "What did you know?" "I saw them together about 2 months ago at his office." "Nothing happened exactly." He touched her face. I closed my eyes. "I asked him about it," Beth rushed on. "He said you two had been living separately inside the marriage. He said you knew Paige was helping him through it, and you believed him. I wanted to. That's not the same thing." "No." Her voice broke. "It isn't." My other line beeped. My mother. I told Beth I would call her back and switched over. Ruth didn't say hello. "What are you doing to Daniel?" I gripped the phone. "What did he tell you?" "That you've decided to punish him because he has a friendship you don't like." "He is devastated, Elena. He said you threw him out of the bedroom after humiliating him in front of the whole family. He's sleeping with Paige." Silence. Then my mother exhaled, slow and disappointed. "If it was really that terrible," she said, "why did you let her sit beside him?" For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood her. "Say that again." You heard me. I want to hear you say it twice. My mother's voice tightened. I'm trying to understand. You sat through an entire dinner with that woman. You let her sit beside your husband. You gave a speech. You took pictures. Now suddenly you're saying there was an affair. Not suddenly. I knew before dinner. Ruth went quiet. I could imagine her in her small yellow kitchen, one hand pressed to her chest, the other gripping the cordless phone she still used because cell phones were, in her opinion, too easy to lose in a purse. She would be wearing her quilted robe and house shoes, perfectly groomed from the neck up. You knew, she said. Yes. And you didn't tell anyone? It wasn't anyone else's marriage. It became our business when you made that speech. My speech was about my service. Oh, Elena, please. Everybody felt what you were doing. What was I doing? You were making Daniel look small. He brought his affair partner to my retirement dinner, and you knew. That's what I can't get past. Why didn't you tell her to leave? Because I didn't want my retirement to become a public trial. It did anyway. No, it became an awkward dinner. There's a difference. And what did sitting there prove? Nothing. Then why do it? I looked toward the dining room. The retirement cards were still stacked on the sideboard where Daniel had placed them before we left. One envelope had my rank written where my first name should have been. Another said, "Finally free." I wasn't trying to prove anything, I said. I needed to see what he would do if I didn't stop him. My mother made a frustrated sound. That sounds like a test. He invited her. He assigned the seats. He gave her the first piece of my cake. I didn't create any of that. But you allowed it. I allowed myself not to rescue him. The sentence surprised me as I said it. Ruth lowered her voice. He says they became emotionally close because he felt abandoned. They had sex for 4 months. The silence on the line changed shape. He admitted that? Yes. Are you sure he didn't mean, Mother? All right. I'm asking. No, you're searching for a smaller version. What do you expect me to say? End an 18-year marriage today? Throw his clothes in the street? You're always so absolute when you're hurt. I have been hurt for less than 24 hours. I haven't done anything except move him into the guest room. You told him to choose counseling or separation. Correct. That's an ultimatum. That's a choice. To you, maybe. I closed my eyes. Why are you defending him? I am defending your life. My life is the thing he was sleeping through. That isn't fair. No, it isn't. Ruth sighed. When she spoke again, the anger had drained out of her voice, leaving something older. You leave, Elena. I leaned against the kitchen counter. What? When something becomes unbearable, you leave. You joined the army. You transferred. You volunteered. You go quiet, make arrangements, and then everyone else finds out what you decided after it's done. I didn't deploy to punish you. I didn't say you did. You're making his affair about me, leaving home at 20. I'm saying I know my daughter. Once you decide someone can't be trusted, you erase them. The accusation found a place to land because there was enough truth in it. I had not spoken to my father during the last 7 years of his life. There were reasons, good ones. He drank, borrowed money, apologized beautifully, and repeated himself. I stopped answering. When he died, Cal handled the funeral because I was overseas, and because even if I had been home, nobody knew whether I would come. My mother still called that efficiency. I haven't erased Daniel, I said. Then don't let everybody make your decisions for you. Who is everybody? Marisol, Cal. Whoever you've told, I told you. You know what I mean? Yes, I said. I'm starting to hear that phrase a lot. I ended the call before she could ask me to forgive her for my tone. Beth answered on the first ring. I'm sorry, she said. I walked into the living room and sat on the arm of the couch. Marisol's cardboard box remained beside the front door. In black marker, she had written table lamp across the top and underlined it twice. Why did you apologize at the restaurant? I asked. Because of the way he looked at Paige. You'd seen it before. Yes? How many times? Just that once at his office? But he talked about her constantly. And you never thought to call me? I did think about it. That's not the comforting answer you believe it is. I know. Beth's voice trembled, but she didn't cry. I respected that. Tears had a way of recruiting the injured person into becoming the comforter. He said things were bad between you, she continued. He said you'd already decided that after retirement, you would either separate or rebuild everything from the ground up. He told Paige the same thing. I didn't know that. He also told her I was joining his business. He told me that too. Did he tell everybody but me? Beth hesitated. He said you were worried about losing your identity, so he wanted the announcement to make you feel needed. I stared at the blank television screen. There it was again, my competence presented as a gift somebody else had given me. And Paige? I asked. He said she was going to help with the transition. I thought the seating was strange, but I kept telling myself I was imagining it. Then he served her the cake. You noticed. I saw her face when she realized I noticed. What did Daniel tell you this morning? That you had been monitoring him for weeks. That you waited until after the dinner to accuse him because you wanted him to embarrass himself. Did he mention the hotel? No. Did he mention 4 months? He said they crossed a line recently. I laughed without humor. He's changing units of measurement. I believe you. Do you? Yes. The answer came quickly, but not defensively. I stood and carried the retirement cards from the sideboard to the kitchen. I didn't know why. They simply looked wrong where they were. I have spent 18 years watching you explain him, I said. I know. Why? Because when Daniel was young, he could make a mistake and look so ashamed that everybody rushed to tell him it wasn't really his fault. I started doing it before I was old enough to understand what I was doing. He's 46. I know that too. Then stop. Beth was quiet. I will, she said. I wanted to believe her. Belief was behaving like a strained muscle. Every time I used it, something hurt. Don't call him for me, I said. Don't carry messages. Don't explain me to him. I won't. And don't explain him to me. She took longer with that one. I'll try. No. Decide. She inhaled. I won't. When the call ended, I opened the first retirement card. Jim and Lorna had given me a gift certificate to a spa and written that I had earned the right to let somebody else do the work. Cal and Denise's card contained a drawing of a hammock with Cal's note underneath. This seems unsafe. No seatbelt. Daniel's card was at the bottom of the stack. The front showed a sunrise over a mountain. Inside, he had written, "Now we finally get our life back." I read it 3 times. Not my life. Our life. Not a new life. The return of something he believed the army had taken from him. I put the card back in its envelope. By Monday, Daniel and I had developed a system for living around each other. He showered in the guest bathroom. I used the kitchen before 6. He brought home takeout and left a portion for me without asking. I ate something else. He did not mention counseling. My body continued waking at 4:45, apparently unaware that nobody expected me. I ran 4 miles through streets that smelled of wet leaves and chimney smoke. I returned to a house with no urgent messages, no schedule, and no reason to move quickly. The absence of pressure should have felt like peace. It felt like falling. At 9, I stood in front of the hall closet holding a storage bin meant for my uniforms. I folded one jacket, unfolded it, and put it back on the hanger. The doorbell rang. Cal stood outside with a toolbox. "What broke?" I asked. "Your cabinet hinge. You haven't seen my cabinet. I heard it in your voice." "That doesn't make sense. It sounded loose." He came in without waiting and went directly to the kitchen cabinet beside the sink, which had, in fact, sagged for 3 years. As he tightened screws, he said, "Mom called me. Of course she did. She thinks you've been radicalized by Marisol. Marisol did bring a shovel." Cal glanced toward the box by the door. "That's comforting." "She thinks it's a lamp." "No one thinks it's a lamp." He tested the cabinet. It closed cleanly for the first time since we'd replaced the countertops. "Daniel called you?" I asked. "Twice." I didn't answer. Why? Because if he says something stupid, I'll have to remember it. He packed the screwdriver into his toolbox. "Mom also thinks retirement means you can take over her appointments." I looked at him. What appointments? Cardiologist, dentist, eye doctor, the usual festival. She never asked me. She told Denise she didn't need to ask because you'd be available. The words scraped against something already raw. You've been taking her? For 4 years. I took her when I was home. You took over. That's different. His tone wasn't angry. That made it worse. I thought I was helping. You were. Then you left, and she spent 3 months telling me how you would have organized it better. I folded my arms. Cal lifted the toolbox. Not today. I just needed you to know there's more than one retirement plan being written without you. After he left, I stood in the kitchen opening and closing the repaired cabinet. Daniel came home after 7 with dust on his work shirt and impatience already arranged across his face. I need a favor, he said. No, you don't know what it is. That's why I can answer quickly. One of our suppliers changed its ordering system. 2 deliveries got switched, and my schedule's a mess. I need maybe an hour. You need an operations manager. I thought I had one. You announced one. You never asked her. His mouth tightened. So you're going to watch my business suffer to prove a point? I'm going to let your business remain yours. I built it for us. You seem to build a lot of things for me without my participation. He dropped his keys on the counter. I called a counselor. When? This afternoon. When is the appointment? They haven't called back. Show me the number. His eyes narrowed. You need proof? Yes. Before he could answer, my phone vibrated on the table. The number wasn't saved. I know I am the last person you want to hear from. This is Paige Mercer. Daniel says you knew about us before Friday. Did you? Daniel glanced toward my phone. Who is it? I turned the screen face down. You asked me to show you my call history, but you're hiding your phone? It's Paige. His face changed so quickly that the accusation disappeared. What does she want? To know whether I knew about the 2 of you before Friday. She shouldn't be contacting you. That isn't an answer. I told her we needed space. She's upset and trying to drag you into it. Interesting. What? 6 hours ago, you were worried I expected you to be cruel to her. Now she's dragging me into something. He held out his hand. Let me see. No. Elena, she might say anything. So might you. That's exactly why the 3 of us shouldn't be talking separately and comparing every word. I picked up the phone again. That is the first argument you've made tonight that I completely believe. He came around the island. Don't answer while you're angry. I'm not angry. That's worse. I opened the message. His hand dropped. I typed carefully. I knew for 6 weeks. Daniel did not know that I knew. I did not know you were coming to the dinner, and I did not agree to the seating. 3 dots appeared almost immediately, vanished, then appeared again. Daniel stood close enough to read over my shoulder. I moved away. Elena. The reply arrived. He told me you knew about us before I ever met you. He said Friday was supposed to make things easier. I need to speak with you directly. I read it twice. Daniel shook his head. She's lying. Which part? All of it. She knew your marriage was over before she met me? Our marriage isn't over. That's what I noticed. I told her things were bad. I never told her you knew about the affair before it started. She says you did. She's embarrassed. She's trying to make herself look innocent. Is she? You don't know her. The sentence hung between us. No, I said. Apparently you do. He walked to the sink and braced both hands against the counter. The roses in the vase had begun to open, their white petals spreading around dark centers. I don't want you meeting her, he said. I looked at his back. You don't get to choose who I meet. She will manipulate you. You recommended her to me for 9 months. That was business. So was my retirement, according to your toast. He turned. If you do this, you're not trying to repair anything. If I don't do it, I'm agreeing to repair your version. I texted Paige an address and a time. 10 the next morning. A coffee shop on Maple where the tables were too close for shouting and too uncomfortable for lingering. Daniel read the message when I set the phone down. So that's it. That's coffee. You know what I mean? Yes. I said. And I'm tired of knowing what you mean when you refuse to say it. He slept in the guest room again. At 9:55, Paige entered the coffee shop wearing black trousers, a gray sweater, and none of the red lipstick from the dinner. Her hair was tied back loosely. Without the green dress and gold hoops, she looked younger, although I knew from her business profile that she was 39. She saw me near the window and stopped. For 1 second, she seemed ready to leave. Then she walked over and placed her phone on the table between us. "Thank you for coming. I was here first." A nervous laugh escaped her. "Right." She sat. I had ordered black coffee. Paige had nothing. "You want something?" I asked. "No. You're going to hold up the table without buying anything." She looked toward the counter. "I'm not worried about the coffee shop's financial stability. I am. Habit." She bought tea she never drank. When she returned, she arranged the paper cup so the printed logo faced away from her. A marketing consultant avoiding free advertising. "I'm not going to pretend I didn't know he was married," she said. "That saves time." I knew. I made choices I'm not proud of. You made some of them in a hotel. Her eyes lowered. Yes. The direct answer knocked several prepared responses out of my hands. She continued before I could choose another. "He told me your marriage had been over in every practical way for more than a year. He said you were staying in the same house until retirement because you didn't want questions from family and people you served with. What else? That you had separate rooms. We didn't. He said you both knew there were other people. There weren't other people. There was you. He told me you had an understanding not to ask. I asked him about your message. He lied." Paige pressed both palms around the tea. "I believed what made it easier to do what I wanted. That was the first thing she said that made me believe her, not trust her. Belief was smaller." "You met me twice before Friday," I said. "At the house in April and at the restaurant in August. Did I seem like a woman who knew? You seemed distant. I was carrying folding chairs when you came to the house. You barely spoke to Daniel. He was in the garage. I know how it sounds. I don't think you do." Her mouth tightened. "I thought you didn't care where he was," she said. "You thought that because he told you, and because I watched you. For what, 40 minutes? You took 2 calls during dinner in August. One of my soldiers had been hospitalized. I didn't know that. No, you knew the version that gave you what you wanted." She looked out the window. A delivery truck blocked half the street while a man rolled stacked crates into the bakery next door. Nobody honked. It was too early for people to have used up their patience. "I loved him," Paige said. I felt my shoulders stiffen. Past tense? I don't know. Then use the present tense. She looked at me. "I love him." There was no triumph in it. That would have been easier. I took a drink of coffee. It had gone bitter as it cooled. What was Friday supposed to be? "He said you wanted to meet me in a setting where nobody would feel pressured to explain anything. At my retirement dinner. He said it mattered that your family see us working well together before the business announcement." "Us? You and me. We had never worked together. He said you'd approve the new structure. You on operations, me on brand and client development. And Daniel? He would run the crews and sales. A little corporate diagram built on top of a marriage nobody had bothered to consult." "Why did you sit beside him?" Paige's fingers tightened around the cup. "He told me you chose the seating." I sat back. "He said it was my idea? He said you thought putting me next to him would make the business arrangement look natural." "Show me." She unlocked her phone and found a message thread. She did not hand me the device immediately. "There are personal things in here," I assumed. "I'm not showing you to hurt you. You've already cleared that hurdle." She passed me the phone. Daniel's name was saved as D, nothing more. The message she had found was dated 3 days before the dinner. "E thinks you should sit on my right. She'll be on my left. Makes us look like a team without making it a whole announcement before the toast." Below it, Paige had replied, "Is she really okay with that?" Daniel's answer came 4 minutes later. "Her idea, not mine. Stop worrying. She handles things better when they look orderly. I read that line again. It was a good lie because it used something true about me. Daniel understood that disorder bothered me. He had simply turned my preference into consent. I slid the phone back. What did he say when he called you Saturday? That you had known for weeks and waited until after the dinner to confront him. That part is true. He said you weren't angry about the affair. He said you were angry because you realized the business plan would make our relationship visible. I stared at her. Paige picked up the tea and put it down without drinking. He said your marriage had been open in practice for years, but you didn't want your family to know. My mother thinks yoga pants are a gateway to moral collapse. If my marriage were open, a private dining room with her wouldn't be my chosen debut. To my surprise, Paige laughed. It lasted half a second before shame shut it down. Sorry, it was funny. I don't know what's allowed here. Neither do I. She scrolled farther through the messages. Yesterday morning, he told me it had to end. That matches what he told me. Then last night, he sent this. She turned the phone. I need time to stabilize things at home. Don't mistake a pause for a change in how I feel. E uses deadlines when she's scared. Give me the week. My coffee cup was empty, though I didn't remember finishing it. He said 1 week? Yes. I had given Daniel 7 days to decide. He had converted my boundary into a waiting period for his affair partner. Below that message was another. Once she sees how much the business needs her, she'll calm down. She hates watching something fail when she can fix it. Paige watched me read. There are more, she said. I've seen enough. No, there's one about the company. I said enough. She drew the phone back. We sat in silence while somebody behind the counter ground coffee beans. The machine screamed for 6 full seconds. What do you want from me? I asked. The truth. You have it. I mean what happens now. That isn't mine to decide for you. Are you staying with him? I haven't decided. Paige's face shifted. Disappointment, maybe, or disbelief. You still might? We've been married 18 years. He lied to both of us. Yes. I thought you'd hate him. I do, sometimes. And me? I don't know you well enough to hate you. That's not forgiveness. No. She nodded. I don't expect that. Good. I could send you everything. I don't want everything. If he tells people, he already is. We could show them. We? The word stopped her. I'm not joining you, I said. I won't use you to punish him, and I won't help you feel innocent. He lied to you. You also chose to sleep with a married man. Her cheeks flushed. I know. Do you? Yes. She looked down at her tea. I won't see him again. That's between you and him. No, it isn't. That's what I understand now. She stood and pulled on her coat. Before leaving, she paused beside the table. Why did you let me stay in that chair? I looked up at her. I wanted to see if either of you would move. Her eyes filled, but she held my gaze. I almost did. You asked if it was okay after you took off your coat. I know. She walked out. Daniel's truck was in the driveway when I returned home. He was waiting in the kitchen with his arms folded. What did she tell you? I set my keys beside his, enough to know you didn't end it. His face went still. I stepped past him, and enough to know my 7 days were never yours to give her. Daniel followed me into the hallway. What does that mean? It means she showed me your message. What message? The one where you told her not to mistake a pause for a change in how you feel. His steps stopped behind me. I reached the stairs and turned. He stood beside the framed photograph from our 10th anniversary, one hand still raised as if he had meant to catch my arm. In the picture, we were sunburned and laughing on a pier in Charleston. Daniel had spent half that trip complaining about the hotel mattress. I had spent the other half pretending not to enjoy his complaints. You read our private messages? He asked. I stared at him. He heard himself. That's not what I meant. It rarely is. She had no right to show you. You had no right to write them. You went there to compare stories, and now you're acting shocked that you found differences. No, I'm acting shocked that you converted my boundary into instructions for your girlfriend. I told you. She is not my girlfriend. She says she loves you. His face betrayed him. It wasn't surprise. It was hunger followed immediately by shame. I wished I had not told him. Paige's feelings weren't mine to deliver, but I had wanted the words to hurt him. Instead, I watched them comfort him. "Did she say that today?" he asked. "I am not carrying messages between you." I asked a question. So did I. "Did you end the affair?" I told her it had to stop. Then you told her to wait 1 week because I knew this would be explosive. "This?" He gestured between us. "You and me. The house. Everything. You didn't say you needed a week to decide whether you loved her. I don't. Say it while looking at me." His eyes met mine. He couldn't. The answer settled quietly, which was crueler than if he had shouted it. "I care about her," he said. "That doesn't erase 18 years. "No, apparently you wanted to keep all of it. That isn't fair. You told her I would run your operations and she would build your brand. You called it stabilizing things at home." His eyebrows pulled together. "She showed you business messages too? Only the part where you explained how to manage me. That was one sentence. It was an accurate sentence. That's why it worked. I know you, Elena. You know which parts of me are useful." He came up 1 step, then stopped when I didn't move. "I built that company because your career kept moving us," he said. "Every time I got established somewhere, orders changed. I had to start over. We moved 3 times for me. 3 times is a lot when you're building a client base. I agreed it was hard. You agree like you're approving a line item." "What do you want, Daniel?" "Do you want me to apologize until your affair becomes reasonable? I want you to admit I gave things up too. I have admitted that for 18 years. You made it the opening statement at my retirement dinner." He dragged a hand through his hair. "You don't understand what it was like to always come second. Paige did." "That's not what I said. She gave you admiration. I gave you work. You gave the army everything. No, I gave the army the part they required. You were supposed to know the difference." His phone rang in his pocket. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and declined the call. Was that her? "No." "Who?" "A supplier." "Answer it." "I'm talking to my wife. You ignored your business to make that sound noble, then you'll blame me when something goes wrong." His phone buzzed with an email. He checked it despite himself. I watched his eyes move across the screen. "What?" "Nothing. Your face disagrees." He shoved the phone back into his pocket. Paige terminated her consulting agreement. I didn't expect the small rush of relief that came with hearing it. Effective immediately? Yes. She told me she wouldn't see you again. You asked her to quit? No. What did you say? The truth. Which version? Mine. He laughed once, without humor. You've made your point. I wasn't making a point. She walks away from a 6-month campaign with no notice, and you expect me to believe you had nothing to do with it. I expect you to believe she made a decision. She left me with unfinished client materials, website access I don't have, and 3 campaigns scheduled to launch. That sounds like a contract issue. It sounds like you poisoned her against me. You told her I knew about the affair. You told her the dinner seating was my idea. You told her our marriage was open. I did not use that word. You described it and let her choose the label. He moved past me toward the kitchen. Now I have to spend the day cleaning this up. I followed him only as far as the hallway. Call your counselor while you're doing that. He turned. I already called. And? No response. Call someone else. You said 1 week. The week was not a vacation from effort. I can't fix everything on your timetable. You scheduled an affair, a retirement dinner, and my first day at your company. You understand calendars. He grabbed his truck keys. If I stay here, I'm going to say something I regret. That has never stopped you before. The front door opened. Beth stood on the porch with one hand raised to knock. Her eyes moved from Daniel to me. I probably should have called. You did, I said, twice. I meant before coming over. Daniel stepped back. Great. Maybe you can talk some sense into her. Beth's face changed. It was a small change, the kind people missed if they were accustomed to her agreeing. I didn't come to do that. What did you come to do? Talk to both of you. I'm leaving for work. On Monday? She asked. He frowned. Yes, Beth. Most people work on Monday. I meant this minute. Paige just quit. Beth looked at me, then back at him. Why? Because Elena met with her and said God knows what. I told her the truth, I said. Daniel opened the door wider. See? Beth took off her coat slowly and hung it on the entry hook. She had dressed for the antique booth in black jeans and a soft brown sweater. A measuring tape stuck out of her purse. I don't see, she said. Your sister-in-law met privately with the woman I had an emotional relationship with. 4 months of sex, I said. Beth closed her eyes. Daniel looked at me. Was that necessary? Yes. You keep saying it like you want to make it filthy. I didn't add anything. Beth put her purse on the floor. Daniel, you told me it crossed a line recently. It started emotionally 4 months ago. You told Elena you had sex for 4 months. He turned toward her. Whose side are you on? There shouldn't be sides to a fact. You don't know what happened. That's why I'm asking. I was unhappy. Paige and I got close. It became physical. I ended it. After Elena confronted you? Yes. And then you told Paige to wait a week? Daniel looked at me. You told her that too? I told Beth what your message said. You had no problem involving my family when it helped you. Beth flinched. I called Elena, she said. She didn't recruit me. She told you enough. You told me first. You called Saturday and said Elena was using surveillance tactics because retirement had messed with her head. My stomach tightened. Daniel's eyes flicked toward me. That isn't what I said. It's almost exactly what you said. I said she was struggling. No, you said she needed a mission, so she turned the marriage into one. The hallway felt narrow. I looked at Daniel. You told my mother the same thing? I said you weren't acting like yourself. I moved you into the guest room. You interrogated me for 3 hours. It was 90 minutes. He threw up his hands. Thank you for proving my point. Beth stepped between us, not physically separating us so much as interrupting the path of the argument. Stop, she said. Daniel stared at her. She rarely used that tone with him. I doubted he had heard it since they were young. You lied to Paige, Beth continued. You lied to Elena. You lied to me. And every time one version stops working, you replace it with another. I did not lie to you. You told me Elena knew Paige was helping you through the separation. We were emotionally separated. Did Elena know that? He said nothing. Beth nodded. Then it was happening in one person. He laughed bitterly. Congratulations, she got to you. No, you did. His face tightened. For 1 second, he looked very young. Not innocent. Young. A boy discovering that shame would not automatically summon somebody to cover him. You've always taken her side, he said. Beth stared at him. I have spent your entire life taking yours. That's not true. It is, and it has made you worse. He stepped back as though she had slapped him. I felt no satisfaction, only a strange sorrow for both of them. Daniel picked up his keys again. Enjoy the alliance, he said. I have a company to save. The door slammed behind him. Beth and I listened to the truck start. I'm sorry, she whispered. You said that already. I know, it still applies. She sat on the bottom stair. I remained standing. He's going to hate me, she said. For how long? I don't know. Then let him. She looked up. Is that what you're doing? I don't know what I'm doing. That might be the first time I've heard you say that. People keep pointing it out. She gave a tired smile. We sat in the living room until her antique booth opened without her. Beth told me Daniel had called 3 relatives after the dinner. To one, he described Paige as a flirt who misread his friendliness. To another, she was his closest friend during a lonely period. To Ruth, she was evidence that I had become suspicious and controlling. He tailors the story to whoever's listening, Beth said. He always was good at sales. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A message from Daniel, counselor called back. Thursday at 4, if you still want to go, if I still wanted to go. As if the appointment were a favor he had scheduled for my condition. I showed Beth. She handed the phone back. Are you going? Yes. Why? Because I offered. That's not what I asked. I looked toward the framed anniversary photograph in the hall. I need to know whether he can tell the truth in a room where neither of us controls the questions. Beth nodded, though her expression said she was afraid I already knew. Daniel returned late, after Beth left and after I had eaten. He stood in the kitchen doorway while I rinsed my plate. Did Paige say she loved me? I shut off the water. I told you I'm not carrying messages. Did she? Yes. His eyes closed briefly. When they opened, he looked relieved and devastated at once. Did she say she would see me again? I dried my hands. You still haven't decided what you want. I want my life back. Which one? I asked. Daniel did not answer. He looked past me toward the dark kitchen window where both of us appeared as pale reflections above the sink. Then he walked upstairs and closed the guest room door. That became his preferred response whenever a question required him to lose something. For the next 3 days, we lived with formal politeness. Daniel texted if he would be late. I acknowledged the message. He bought milk. I replaced the empty paper towel roll. We discussed trash collection and whether the heating system was making a new sound. Marriage could survive temporarily on maintenance because maintenance was what remained after intimacy evacuated. Paige did not contact me again. Daniel complained that several advertising accounts were locked behind passwords she had not transferred. He hired a freelance designer who changed the company logo from a blue roofline to a different blue roofline and charged him $600. 2 material deliveries arrived at the wrong job sites. One crew spent half a day waiting for fixtures Daniel had forgotten to confirm. Each time he told me, he watched my face for the reflex to engage. I had opinions. That was the painful part. I knew how to reorganize his ordering process, who should verify deliveries, and which problems needed a phone call instead of another spreadsheet. My mind built solutions while my mouth said nothing. On Wednesday night, he set a stack of printed schedules on the kitchen island. I'm not asking you to work, he said. What are you asking? Just look. No, you haven't even seen them. I know what schedules look like. One glance, Elena. If I find a problem, what happens? You tell me. Then what? I fix it. And the next one? He pressed his lips together. That's what I thought. He gathered the papers, squaring the edges against the counter with more force than necessary. You enjoy watching me struggle. No, I'm learning not to prevent it. That sounds like the same thing in therapy language. We haven't been to therapy yet. Apparently, you're a natural. The counselor's office occupied the second floor of a converted brick house between a dentist and a tax preparer. A brass plaque by the door read, Andrea Hale, LCSW. Beneath it, someone had taped a handwritten arrow pointing upstairs because the original sign apparently lacked operational clarity. Daniel arrived separately from work. He wore the embroidered blue shirt and smelled faintly of sawdust. I had changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a dark sweater. Every option felt like a message. A uniform would be defensive. A dress would look performative. Jeans said nothing, which was what I wanted. Andrea Hale was in her 50s, with gray threaded through her dark curls and glasses hanging from a bright red chain. Her office contained 2 upholstered chairs, a small couch, a box of tissues, and a clock positioned where clients could not see it without turning their heads. I knew where it was within 10 seconds. Daniel noticed me notice. This is what she does, he told Andrea before we had fully sat down. She inventories everything. Andrea settled into her chair. Is that a problem? It can be. It can also locate the fire extinguisher, I said. Andrea glanced toward the corner. Where is it? Hallway, outside the bathroom. Daniel gave her a look that said, See? She smiled slightly. Useful. That irritated him. Andrea asked why we had come. I had an affair, Daniel said. The directness surprised me. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I'm not proud of it. I hurt my wife. I want to understand how we got here and see if we can rebuild. It was a good answer. Concise, accountable, almost exactly what I had wanted to hear at the kitchen table. I looked at him, wondering which part was true. Andrea turned to me. I'm here to find out whether he can tell the truth when neither of us is controlling the questions. Daniel sat back. That's how she talks. How? Andrea asked. Like this is an interrogation. It feels like an interrogation? She asked. It feels like there's one acceptable version of everything, and Elena has already written it. Andrea looked at me. Have you? I have dates and facts. That's not what she asked, Daniel said. I know. I folded my hands in my lap. I know what happened, I said. I don't know what it means for the marriage. Andrea nodded. Is the affair over? Yes, Daniel said. No, I said at the same time. He turned toward me. Paige ended the personal and professional relationship. Then Paige ended it. I told her first. You told her to pause for a week. I told her we needed to stop. Then you told her not to mistake the pause for a change in how you felt. Andrea raised one hand, not to silence us, but to slow the rhythm. Daniel, when you say it's over, what action did you take? I called Paige Saturday morning and said we couldn't continue while I worked on my marriage. And after that, I sent a message I shouldn't have sent. What did it say? He looked at me. Andrea waited. Finally, he repeated the message almost accurately, removing the word stabilize and changing home to marriage. Why did you send it? She asked. Because she was hurt. Why was it your responsibility to relieve her hurt? Daniel's jaw shifted. I caused it. You also caused Elena's. I know that. Which relationship were you protecting with the message? He sat very still. I watched his face, willing myself not to answer for him. I didn't know, he said. I was trying to keep everything from collapsing at once. Andrea nodded. That sounds honest. Daniel looked relieved. It also means the affair was not over when you sent it. The relief vanished. This is what I mean, he said. Every word becomes evidence. You came because trust was damaged by deception, Andrea said. Words will matter for a while. He looked down at his hands. Andrea turned to me. What would ending the affair look like to you? No personal contact, no waiting period, no version of the marriage being offered to Paige that I haven't heard, access to his phone? I didn't ask for that. Daniel looked surprised. You went through the tablet, he said. Once. You checked the accounts. I noticed a charge. I thought you wanted complete transparency. I want you to volunteer the truth. I don't want a second career auditing you. Andrea asked whether I wanted to remain married. I looked at Daniel. He had a nick across one knuckle, probably from work. I remembered cleaning a deeper cut on that same hand years earlier, while he joked that I had married him for his health insurance. I remembered him waiting at an airport with cheap flowers after my longest deployment. I remembered the brass elevator wall. Yes, I said. Some part of me does. His shoulders dropped. But I don't know whether that part loves him or simply recognizes the shape of our life. Daniel stared at me. That's cold. It's honest. You think our entire marriage is a habit? I think habit is holding more of it than I realized. Andrea asked what the marriage had been like before Paige. Daniel spoke first. He described missed holidays, interrupted trips, meals eaten alone, and conversations where I treated his feelings as problems to solve. He spoke well. Nothing he said was invented. When it was my turn, I admitted that I had shut doors he couldn't see. I came home carrying things I would not name, then resented him for failing to understand their weight. I treated competence as a shield. I had answered vulnerability with instructions because instructions were safer. Daniel looked vindicated. Exactly, he said. That's what I've been saying. Andrea's eyes moved to him. What did you hear Elena take responsibility for? For abandoning the marriage emotionally. That isn't what she said. It's the meaning. I turned toward him. There it was again. He could accept my accountability only after enlarging it until it covered his. I did not abandon you, I said. You left me alone for years. I served for years. Same result at home. No. To you. No, Daniel. You were lonely. I believe you. I was also your wife. Both things can be true. And my loneliness is just something I should have handled quietly. You could have handled it loudly, with me, with a counselor, with a packed bag and an honest sentence. You chose a hotel. He stood so abruptly that the tissue box rattled on the side table. I need a minute. Andrea nodded toward the door. He left. I heard him cross the hallway and descend the stairs. The front door opened below. Andrea did not tell me he was wrong. She did not praise my strength. She waited. I let Paige sit beside him, I said. Why? Everybody keeps asking me that. I imagine they do. I didn't want him to accuse me of ruining the dinner. Did that work? No. What did it cost? I looked toward the window. Bare branches scratched lightly against the glass. I miss my own retirement dinner, I said. I was sitting there, but I missed it. Andrea's expression softened. That sounds lonely. The word undid something the larger ones had not. I reached for a tissue. When Daniel returned, he did not apologize for leaving. We finished the session discussing practical boundaries, separate rooms, no contact with Paige, no business work from me unless there was a written, paid arrangement, which I said I did not want. Andrea suggested another appointment the following week. Daniel said he would check his schedule. In the parking lot, Rain spotted the pavement. That was a setup, he said. You chose her. She took your side. She disagreed with me twice. She liked you. You say that like I seduced the counselor. He opened his truck door. You made me sound dishonest. You changed the wording of the message while quoting it. Because the exact wording wasn't the point. The exact wording was always the point. He stared across the roof of the truck at me. I'm not doing another session if it's just a weekly prosecution. Then don't. You'd like that. No. I asked you to choose counseling or separation. Showing up once and rejecting every question is neither. I showed up. So did I. At the dinner. He drove away. The next evening, the 1-week deadline arrived without ceremony. Daniel came home carrying a duffel bag from the garage. He packed shirts, toiletries, and his work boots while I stood in the guest room doorway. Where are you going? A hotel for a few days. Is that separation? It's space. Is it counseling? I need time to think. You had a week. I had a week of being attacked by you, Paige, Beth, and a therapist. Paige left. Beth told the truth. Andrea asked questions. You've already made up your mind. No, that's why I needed you to make up yours. He zipped the bag. At the front door, he looked around the house as if expecting it to stop him. What am I supposed to tell people? He asked. The truth. Which truth, Elena? I opened the door. For once, I said, start with the one that costs you something. Daniel stood on the porch with the duffel hanging from one hand. For a second, I thought he might put it down. Then he stepped outside. I closed the door without slamming it. The lock clicked automatically when I turned the handle. Daniel's truck started, backed out, and disappeared past the bare maple at the corner. The house did not feel peaceful. It felt as if somebody had removed a large piece of furniture and left the dents in the carpet. I walked upstairs. The guest room closet stood open. Daniel had taken enough clothes to create gaps, but not enough to suggest permanence. 2 work shirts remained. His brown dress shoes sat on the floor. A phone charger was still plugged into the wall. Space, carefully packed for 3 to 5 days. I unplugged the charger and placed it on the desk. My first night alone, I slept diagonally across the bed out of spite and woke with a cramp in my hip. At 4:45, my eyes opened. No alarm, no schedule, no Daniel downstairs pretending to be quiet. I made coffee and drank it standing over the sink. Outside, the streetlights clicked off one by one. A delivery van rolled past. Someone in a reflective jacket jogged with a small dog that kept trying to investigate the same mailbox. The day waited without instructions. I went upstairs and pulled the storage bin into the hall. This time I folded 3 uniform jackets before I stopped. I laid each one flat, smoothed the sleeves, and checked the pockets. In the third jacket, I found a folded receipt, 2 throat lozenges, and a plastic name badge from a conference in Georgia. Master Sergeant Elena Ward. The photograph was terrible. My eyes were half closed, and the printer had made my skin slightly green. I sat on the floor holding it. 24 years reduced easily when you use the right container. Jackets on the bottom, trousers lengthwise, belts coiled at the side. A career could fit beneath a snap-on lid if you pressed down hard enough. I took everything back out. Marisol called at 7. "Are you dressed?" she asked. "Technically. Pants? Yes. Shoes? No." "Put on shoes." "Why?" "Because I'm outside." I went to the front window. Her truck was parked at the curb, and she was leaning against it with a travel mug. "You can't keep doing this." "I absolutely can. Retirement gives me time." I put on shoes. She drove us to a diner where the menus were laminated and the coffee tasted faintly of pennies. Marisol ordered oatmeal and then complained when it arrived looking like oatmeal. "You ordered it," I said. "I expected them to elevate it. It's oats. They could show ambition." She pushed the brown sugar toward me. After a minute, she asked, "Where is he?" "Hotel." "Which one?" I didn't ask. Good. That sounded rehearsed. It was. The first version had profanity. I stirred sugar into my coffee. He left things. People leave things when they plan to come back, or when they forget a charger. He owns 17 chargers, 14. Marisol pointed her spoon at me. "The fact that you know proves my larger point." "What larger point?" "You're inventorying his absence." I looked toward the front windows. Across the parking lot, a man in a food bank sweatshirt was trying to fit flattened cardboard into the back of a compact car. Every time he pushed one bundle in, another slid out. "I don't know what to do today," I said. Marisol stopped smiling. "I know. I have spent my whole life wanting one day nobody needed anything from me. And I hate it. That doesn't mean you should work for Daniel." I didn't say it did. "You looked at that man losing a war to cardboard like you wanted to assume command." The man shoved the hatch closed, cardboard pressed against the rear window like badly packed armor. "He should load the wider bundles first," I said. "Of course he should." Marisol knew the regional food bank from volunteering during holiday drives. They were reorganizing their warehouse before winter donations increased, she told me, and their operations coordinator had recently left. "I'm not looking for a job," I said. "I didn't offer you one. You developed a suspicious amount of context. I make conversation. You conducted reconnaissance." She shrugged. "Maybe I know a woman who needs somebody to look at a warehouse for 2 hours. No. Fine. No surprise visits, no introductions, no arranging my life because you're worried." Her expression sharpened, then softened. "Understood. Thank you. You're welcome. Can I still tell you their loading dock is a public nuisance?" "No." "Oppressive." "My mother called while we were paying. Her cardiology appointment had been moved, and Cal could not take her because of work." "Can you drive me Tuesday?" she asked. The automatic yes reached my tongue before I stopped it. "What time?" 11:15. "I thought we could have lunch after." "Did Cal tell you to ask me?" "No." "Why would he?" "Because he's been handling your appointments. He doesn't mind. Have you asked him?" "Elena, it's a ride, not a treaty negotiation. I can take you Tuesday. I can't take over all the appointments." "I didn't ask you to." "You told Denise I would." There was a pause. Denise repeats too much. "That isn't the issue. I assumed you'd want to help now that you're free." "I do want to help. I don't want my retirement assigned to me." Ruth sighed. Everything has to be a boundary now. Only the things people keep crossing. She ended the call with a cool, "I'll see you Tuesday," but she did not cancel. I called Cal next. "I can cover Tuesday," I said. "Mom got to you." She asked, she announced, and I negotiated. Cal laughed. "Look at you joining civilian life. I want copies of her appointment schedule." "Careful." "That sounds like taking over. I want to know what's coming." "We'll divide it." He was silent long enough that I thought the call had dropped. "You mean that?" "Yes. Even the dentist? What's wrong with the dentist? She flirts with him. Our mother? He's 80. It's still unpleasant. I laughed. Then Cal said, "Thank you." 2 words, no joke wrapped around them. "I should have noticed how much you were doing," I said. "You were busy. That's an explanation." "Not an excuse. Apparently, I'm learning." He breathed out slowly. "Mom wasn't wrong about one thing," he said. "When you're around, you make things happen. People get used to it, so they resent me and depend on me. Welcome to family." Daniel texted that afternoon. "Need to pick up clothes tonight. 8, okay?" I replied, "Yes." At 8:12, he came through the front door using his key. He looked tired. His hair needed cutting, and there was a pale stain on the front of his jacket. "Hotel coffee," he said when he saw me notice. I didn't ask. "No, you don't ask much anymore." He went upstairs. I remained in the living room with a book open on my lap. After 10 minutes, I heard drawers opening. At 20, footsteps crossed into our bedroom. I went up. Daniel stood at his side of the closet, pulling dress shirts from hangers. "You could have asked before coming in here. My clothes are in here. The guest room has clothes. I need these for client meetings." He laid 3 shirts across the bed. His eyes moved to the storage bin in the hallway and the uniforms rehung in the closet. "I thought you were packing those." I changed my mind. "Why?" "Because I can." He nodded, looking strangely hurt. "Paige still hasn't transferred everything." "That isn't my problem. I didn't say it was. You came home and mentioned it within 3 minutes." "She blocked me." "Good." His head snapped toward me. "You said you weren't taking her side." "I'm not. I'm taking the side where you stop contacting her. I needed the account passwords. Use a lawyer or send a formal business request. You don't need to ask whether she misses you." His face colored. "I didn't ask that. You wanted me to tell you at the kitchen sink. That was different." "How?" I was in shock. "You were flattered." He gathered the shirts too quickly, dropping one sleeve onto the floor. "I lost 2 estimates this week because the new campaign forms went nowhere. One of my crews sat for 3 hours because a delivery got switched. I'm paying for hotel rooms and fixing an entire marketing system while you sit here deciding whether to pack your uniforms." There it was, the invoice. I picked up the fallen sleeve and placed it on the bed. "You expected to use my first week of retirement to fix your business while you continued your affair. I didn't continue it. You asked her to wait, and now she's gone. Congratulations. That isn't my victory. It sure feels like my punishment." I looked at him. "Do you hear how often your consequences become something I did to you?" He zipped his garment bag. "I canceled next week's counseling." My chest tightened, though I had expected it. "Why?" "I can't afford to lose another afternoon. Then you chose." "No. I told you I need time. You rejected counseling and you moved out. Temporarily. You don't get to name a thing temporary until I agree to wait." He lifted the garment bag from the bed. "What do you want from me, Elena?" "I wanted you to decide whether you were willing to become honest. I admitted the affair. After I presented the date and location, I ended it. She ended it. I went to counseling. Once." He looked around the bedroom. "This house is mine too. I know. I can come back whenever I want. You can enter the building. That doesn't restore the marriage." His eyes filled with anger, then something closer to fear. "I don't recognize you." I folded my arms. "You recognized every skill you planned to use." He left without saying goodbye. Tuesday, after my mother's appointment, we ate lunch at a cafe near the medical building. Ruth complained about the cardiologist's shoes, the parking garage, and the price of soup. She did not mention Daniel until the check arrived. "He called me," she said. "What version did you get? That his business is in trouble and you're refusing to help. I'm not his employee. You're his wife." I set my credit card on the tray. "I was his wife when he hired Paige." Ruth looked down. "He says you've become hard." "No. I stopped making everything soft for him." My mother rubbed one thumb over the other. "Are you going to leave him?" "He already left." "That isn't what I asked. I haven't decided what the marriage is called at the end of this." Ruth nodded as if I had confirmed her worst suspicion. Then she said, "Cal told me about the appointment schedule. And? I don't need to be managed." "Good. Neither do I." For the first time, she almost smiled. On the drive home, my phone rang through the car speakers, a local number. I nearly ignored it, then answered. A woman introduced herself as Dana from the regional food bank. "Marisol Soto gave me your name," she said. "She was very clear that I'm not offering you a job and that contacting you may result in her death." I closed my eyes. "What do you need?" 2 hours, Dana said. "We have a warehouse full of donations, 3 different inventory systems, and nobody agrees where the canned tomatoes live." At the next red light, I looked at my empty passenger seat. "Tomorrow morning," I said. 2 hours. Dana met me at a side door beneath a sign that read "Donations," and an older sign behind it that read "Shipping." She was about 50, short and sturdy, with a blonde braid down her back and reading glasses on top of her head. She wore a sweatshirt with the food bank logo and carried a clipboard that had lost one corner. "You're early," she said. 7 minutes. That counts as alarmingly early here." "You said 9. I know what I said. I'm managing expectations." She led me through a narrow office into the warehouse. Marisol had understated the problem. Pallets formed crooked aisles beneath fluorescent lights. Cases of canned vegetables shared space with cereal, cleaning supplies, and shrink-wrapped jars of peanut butter. Handwritten signs were taped to support columns. Beans appeared in 3 different places. One rolling cart contained tomato products, paper plates, and a single electric kettle. A man in a red vest pushed the cart past us. "Raymond," Dana called, "where are you taking the kettle?" "Break room. Why is it with tomatoes?" "It knows what it did." He kept moving. Dana looked at me. "Raymond volunteers 3 mornings a week. He has been fired twice and refuses to accept either termination." "I heard that," he called. "Good." She handed me the clipboard. 3 inventory lists were clipped together. One came from donated shipments, one from purchases, and one from distribution. They used different product names, different quantities, and in one case, different units of measurement. "Who reconciles these?" I asked. Dana raised a hand. "How often?" "When fear motivates me." "Where are receiving records?" She pointed toward a desk surrounded by flattened boxes. "Those? Some of those. Who decides storage locations? Usually, gravity." I looked across the warehouse. 2 hours, I reminded myself. I began with the tomatoes. Whole, diced, crushed, sauce, paste, 6 pallets spread across 4 aisles. Raymond knew where most of them were, although he referred to the locations as near the loud door, behind the sad oatmeal, and where Linda hit the forklift post. "Was Linda injured?" I asked. "Only spiritually." By 10:30, I had mapped receiving, storage, and outgoing movement on the back of an outdated donation flyer. At 10:45, I started a list of immediate changes. At 11, Dana took the pen from my hand. "You said 2 hours. There are 12 minutes left. Those 12 minutes belong to walking back to your car. I haven't explained the list. You can explain it tomorrow. I didn't agree to tomorrow. You color-coded 3 inventory systems on scrap paper. You're coming tomorrow." I use symbols. There are only 2 colors. Terrifying. I looked at the warehouse. Raymond was arguing with a pallet jack that had 1 damaged wheel. "I can stay another hour." "No, the receiving area is blocking the fire exit. We'll move it." "When?" "Before the fire." Dana, Elena. Her expression was kind, which made the refusal harder to challenge. "Go home," she said. "If this place teaches you anything, let it be that unfinished work remains here after you leave. It does not follow your car. That seems optimistic. It follows my car. I'm management." I left at 11:10. The unfinished list sat in my mind all afternoon. I made myself eat lunch before opening my laptop. Then I made myself close the laptop after 30 minutes. The next morning, I returned with printed labels. Dana looked at them, looked at me, and said, "We need to discuss procurement authorization. I paid $8. That's how dependency starts." Raymond examined the labels. These say location codes. Yes, nobody knows what B3 means. They will. He frowned. I know where the sad oatmeal is. Then we'll call B3 sad oatmeal for a week. He considered that. Acceptable. I spent 4 mornings at the warehouse without calling it work. Dana called it consulting when she wanted me to feel useful and volunteering when she remembered the budget. I stopped after 4 hours because she unplugged the office printer and threatened to hide my car keys. The systems improved, but not because I arrived and imposed order. The first label layout failed when volunteers stacked donations in front of half the signs. Raymond pointed out that several older volunteers could not read my smaller print. Dana rejected my proposed receiving schedule because donated food did not care about appointments. I adjusted. That was harder than fixing. On the 6th morning, Raymond moved an incoming pallet without logging it. I found canned fruit where rice belonged and asked, too sharply, who had ignored the process. The room quieted. Raymond raised his hand. The truck driver was blocking the alley, he said. I moved it so he could leave. You still logged the move. I was going to. When? His face closed. I recognized that expression. I had seen it on soldiers who had made a reasonable decision and then been spoken to as if judgment itself were disobedience. I'm sorry, I said. Raymond blinked. The process should make your work easier. If it doesn't, the process is wrong. He looked toward Dana. Did she just apologize? Dana did not look up from her clipboard. Don't startle her. At home, Daniel's remaining shoes gathered dust in the guest room closet. He had moved from the hotel to a furnished apartment near his office. I knew because he texted the address in case of emergency, then added that the place smelled like somebody had cooked fish in 1998. I almost replied with advice about baking soda. I deleted it. His messages came every few days. Do you know where the warranty file is? Top drawer, office cabinet? Could you look at this supplier schedule? No. Mom says you're doing food bank work now. Volunteering. You always need a mission. I did not answer that one. Our second counseling appointment passed without him. I went alone. Andrea asked what I did when I was not repairing the warehouse, managing my mother's appointments, or monitoring whether Daniel had chosen honesty. I run, I said. For enjoyment? No. What do you enjoy? The question irritated me. I don't know. That may be worth learning. I retired from the Army, not from having a personality. What does your personality enjoy? I thought about the mystery novel I had failed to read, Marisol's terrible oatmeal, Cal's jokes, coffee before sunrise. I like quiet. Do you permit it? That sounds like a trick. It's only a question. I began leaving one morning each week empty. The first time, I cleaned the oven. The second time, I caught myself alphabetizing spices and drove to a park instead. I sat on a bench for 23 minutes, hated 16 of them, and stayed for all 23. Cal and I built a shared calendar for Ruth's appointments. He handled anything near his office. I took Tuesdays. Denise volunteered for emergencies but insisted that Ruth's dentist remained Cal's punishment. Ruth complained that the calendar made her feel like cargo. You're invited to drive yourself, Cal told her. I don't like the garage. Then welcome to logistics, I said. She did not laugh, but her mouth moved. After her eye appointment, Cal and I sat in his truck while Ruth went inside the pharmacy. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. I used to hate when you came home, he said. I turned toward him. That's direct. You'd arrive with gifts, fix 3 things in Mom's house, reorganize her paperwork, and leave. Then she'd spend months asking why I couldn't do things your way. I didn't know. You didn't ask. No. He looked through the windshield. I also bragged about you to everybody I knew. Contradictions. Family specialty. I'm sorry. He nodded. I don't want to take over, I said. Tell me when I do. You'll argue. Probably. Then you'll make a spreadsheet proving why you're right. Maybe, but you'll listen eventually. I'm working on the delay. Ruth emerged carrying a small pharmacy bag and waving at us as if we might leave without her. Cal started the engine. For what it's worth, he said, Daniel called me again. What did he want? For me to convince you to come home. I am home. That's what I told him. I looked out the passenger window so Cal would not see how much that mattered. Beth stopped by that Sunday with 2 lamps from her antique booth. Real lamps, which she placed beside Marisol's unopened shovel box. Daniel says you've turned everybody against him, she said. Everybody? Mom still thinks you should forgive him. Of course she does. He told her Paige pursued him, and he got confused. He told the counselor he chose the affair because he was lonely. He told me Paige manipulated him through the business. He loved her on Thursday. Beth sat on the couch. That's the part he won't say now, because she left. Do you think he did? Love her? Beth nodded. Yes. The words still hurt, but it no longer surprised me. He came to my booth yesterday, she said. He looked awful. I'm sorry. You don't have to be. I can be sorry he hurts without fixing it. Beth gave me a small smile. Andrea? Common sense, eventually. Dana offered me a part-time operations position near the end of the month. 3 days a week, modest pay, no grand title. You're overqualified, she said. I'm unqualified for Raymond. Everyone is. I asked for 2 days to decide, not 2 minutes, not a deadline that turned fear into urgency. 2 days. When I accepted, Dana said, Good, now take tomorrow off. That evening, a message from Daniel appeared while I was reheating soup. I need to talk to you in person. Thursday, 7. Hawthorne Grill. I stared at the restaurant name. A second message followed. Same room isn't available. Just dinner. I'm not asking you to decide anything there. I could have said no. Instead, I typed, 1 hour. Daniel replied immediately. Thank you. On Thursday, I arrived at 6:58. He was already seated at a table near the back, beneath a smaller painting of the same disappointed horse. The chair beside him was empty. So was the one across from him. He stood when he saw me. For once, he waited for me to choose where I would sit. I took the chair across from him. Daniel sat slowly. You look good, he said. So do you. He did. His hair had been cut, and he wore the navy jacket I had bought for our anniversary, the one that did not make him look like a magician. There was no bourbon in front of him, only water with a slice of lemon. I wasn't sure you'd come. I said I would. I know, I just wasn't sure. The restaurant sounded different outside the private room. Glasses clinked at the bar. A couple in a nearby booth discussed kitchen countertops with the intensity of peace negotiations. A server carried a tray of steaks past us, leaving the smell of charred butter behind. Daniel reached for his water. I didn't order for you. Good. I remembered. That was 5 weeks ago. 6. I looked at him. I'm keeping track, he said. Our waiter introduced himself and handed us menus. He was older than the young man from the retirement dinner and had the patient expression of someone who had watched hundreds of couples fail to enjoy expensive food. Would you like to start with an appetizer? No crab cakes, Daniel said quickly. The waiter waited. That was a joke, Daniel explained. I suspected. I ordered salmon again. Daniel chose the fillet, medium. When the waiter left, Daniel folded his menu and aligned it with the edge of the table. You always do that, I said. What? Straighten things when you're nervous. He looked down at the menu and moved it slightly out of line. I guess we both inventory rooms. Different reasons. Maybe. He took a breath. The apartment does smell like fish. I'm sorry. I've tried everything. Baking soda, vinegar, some spray. Beth gave me that smells like artificial mountains. Did you check the garbage disposal? His face brightened with the reflex of being helped. Then we both felt it. I'll check, he said. The waiter brought bread. Daniel waited until I took a piece before taking one himself. His awareness was so deliberate it made every movement look rehearsed. How is the food bank? He asked, disorganized. So you love it. I like parts of it. Marisol told Mom they offered you a job. Marisol talks too much. Did you take it? Yes. His smile arrived, then faltered. Full-time? 3 days a week? Operations? Yes. He tore his bread in half. They're lucky to have you. Thank you. You wouldn't even look at my schedules. There it was, 10 minutes in. I told you why. I'm not starting a fight. I'm saying it's hard not to notice. They asked me. I asked you. You announced me. Before that, I asked for help plenty of times, and I gave it. You gave advice. What did you want? A partner. You wanted an operations manager who slept beside you. He put down the bread. I deserve that. The answer took some air out of my anger. Daniel looked toward the bar. I've had a lot of time to think. Thinking isn't the same as changing. I know. You used to say that whenever I gave you advice. I know that too. Our meals arrived. The salmon had crisp edges and the potatoes were hot enough to steam when I cut into them. Daniel checked the center of his steak but did not complain. For a few minutes we ate. I hired someone to help with scheduling, he said. Temporarily. She used to run dispatch for a plumbing company. That sounds appropriate. It costs more than I expected. Competence usually does. He nodded. I see that now. I waited. Paige transferred the account access through an attorney. He continued. Everything professional is closed. And everything personal? She hasn't responded to me. That isn't what I asked. No contact for 26 days. Because you stopped? Because she blocked me. His honesty was late, but it was honesty. Did you try to contact her after she left? I asked. Twice. What did you say? That I was sorry. That I needed to explain. Which part required explanation? All of it. Did you ask her to come back? His eyes moved to his plate. Once? I set down my fork. It was the day after I left the house. So while you were telling my family you wanted your marriage, you were asking her to return. I was alone in a hotel room. You keep describing the setting as if it made the decision. I'm telling you where my head was. I know where your head was. I'm asking where your choice was. He pressed his napkin against his mouth. She said no, he said. That's why we're here? No. If she had said yes, would we be here? Yes. You don't know that. Neither do you. That's true. He looked surprised by the agreement. I cut another piece of salmon. I wasn't hungry anymore, but eating gave me time. Daniel leaned forward. I loved her. The restaurant noise seemed to lower, although it didn't. I know, I think I did. Why are you telling me? Because you said honesty had to cost something. This isn't a payment. No, I know. He rubbed his thumb against the edge of the table. I loved how she saw me. With you, I was always Daniel, the contractor, the husband waiting at home, the guy who didn't understand what you did but was supposed to be proud and not complain. You were allowed to complain. It never felt that way. Because I disagreed? Because you could survive without me. The sentence was so quiet I nearly missed it. Daniel looked directly at me. Every time you left, you proved it. You got on a plane and did impossible things, and I stayed behind changing air filters and answering questions I couldn't answer. Everybody respected you. Even my clients asked about you before they asked about me. I never asked them to. I know. That made it worse. I sat back. He continued, words coming faster. When retirement got close, I thought you'd come home and finally see what I had built. Then I got afraid you'd look at the business, look at me, and realize neither one was enough. Paige made me feel like I was the person with the important life. So you brought her to watch you take over my retirement. His face tightened. Yes. The answer landed without defense. I told myself the dinner was about combining everything. You, me, the company. But I wanted her there because I wanted to be the center of something you had earned. I looked toward the disappointed horse. That may be the truest thing you've said. I'm ashamed of it. You should be. I am. He did not argue. That was the danger of a real apology. It did not repair anything, but it made leaving harder by returning dimension to the person who hurt you. The waiter asked whether we needed anything. Daniel said no. I asked for more water. When we were alone again, he said, I'm willing to go back to counseling with Andrea, if that's what you want. It isn't about what I want you to perform. I'm not performing. You waited until Paige blocked you. Beth stopped translating, and your business became difficult. Now you're ready. What would have been the right time? Before consequences felt lonely. I can't change when I understood. No. So what am I supposed to do? Stay wrong because I was late? I looked at him. No, you should change. The question is whether I have to stand close enough to be hit by the process. His eyes filled. Elena, I'm sorry. For what? For the affair. What about it? For betraying you. How? He exhaled, frustrated. You know how. I need to hear what you know. I lied. I slept with someone else. I made you doubt everything. What are you sorry it did to me? It hurt you. How? You're turning this into a test because you keep answering with labels. Daniel looked around, checking whether anyone could hear. I'm sorry you felt humiliated. Felt? I'm sorry I humiliated you. At the dinner? Yes. What are you sorry for there? For inviting Paige. You were allowed to invite guests. For putting her beside me. You said the seating was hers. I lied. I know. His voice rose slightly. What do you want, Elena? The couple discussing countertops glanced toward us. I kept my voice low. I want to know whether you understand me as a person or only as the location where your consequences arrived. That isn't fair. There it is. What? You apologize until the apology reaches something uncomfortable. Then I become unfair. I am sitting here admitting things that make me look terrible. You still think looking terrible is the cost. What else do I have to give? The truth without asking me to reward you. He pushed his plate away. I lost my wife. I lost Paige. Beth barely speaks to me. Your brother treats me like I'm contagious. My business is bleeding money. How much punishment is enough? None of those were punishments I assigned. You refused to help. I refused to work for you. You turned Paige against me. I told her what you told me. You told Beth. You called Beth first. You kicked me out. You packed the bag because nothing I did was enough. You canceled counseling because Andrea had decided I was the villain. She asked why you sent a message. Daniel stared at me, breathing hard. Then his shoulders sagged. This is why I can't talk to you. You asked me here. Because I miss you. The anger went out of the room. I looked down at my plate. The salmon had cooled. A thin layer of butter had formed on the potatoes. I miss you too, I said. Hope changed his whole face. I hated that I had the power to put it there. He reached across the table but stopped before touching my hand. Come home, he said. I am home. Let me come home. For what? To start over. You can't start over. You can only continue knowing what happened. Then let's continue differently. With counseling? Yes. No contact with Paige? She blocked me. That wasn't the question. Yes. No contact? No business role for me? If that's what you want. It is. He nodded quickly. I can do that. And when you're lonely, I'll tell you. When I answer badly, we'll work on it. When I don't need you? His hope flickered. That's not how marriage works. It is sometimes. You make it sound like needing each other is weakness. No. I think you made my independence an injury to you. I want to matter. You did. Past tense? I did not answer. The waiter placed the check between us. Daniel covered it with his hand. At least let me do this. I almost laughed. Instead, I looked at the empty chair beside him. He had left it open this time, as if the absence itself proved something. Then I looked at the man across from me. Name one thing you miss about me, I said. That isn't something I did for you. Daniel opened his mouth. No answer came. The silence lasted long enough for the waiter to return with a pen. He placed it on top of the check and left without asking whether everything was all right. Daniel looked down at his hands. I miss the way you make coffee, he said. I closed my eyes. Daniel. No, wait. He pressed his fingers against his forehead. That came out wrong. It came out first. I'm nervous. So am I. He looked at me again. I miss your laugh. Which one? What do you mean? I have several. The real one. The one where you tilt your head back and don't care how loud you are. I knew the laugh he meant. Marisol could usually pull it out of me. Cal sometimes did by accident. Daniel continued. I miss how you stand at the bottom of the stairs when you're trying to remember why you went up. I miss the face you make when somebody uses a word wrong but you're trying to be polite. I miss the scar on your left knee. I miss hearing you come home. My throat tightened. Those were mine, not services I provided, not systems I maintained. That's more than one, I said. I needed time. I know. He reached across the table. This time, I let his fingers touch mine. His hand was warm. For 18 years, that hand had reached for me in sleep. It had held ice against my swollen ankle, carried grocery bags, slammed doors, fastened the difficult clasp on my necklace, and touched another woman's face in his office. People wanted decisions to make the past become simple. They didn't. I love you, Daniel said. I love you too. His fingers closed around mine. Then come home with me. I am home. His grip loosened. Let me come back. No. The word was quiet. Daniel withdrew his hand. You just said, you love me. I do. How does that become no? It doesn't become anything. It exists beside no. He leaned back as if distance might make the sentence easier to see. You wanted me to answer your question. I did. This wasn't a pass-fail test. Everything is a test with you. No. Sometimes an answer just arrives too late to change the outcome. His face hardened. So you knew before you came. I knew I couldn't return to the marriage we had. I said we could build a different one. You said you could do whatever I listed. Counseling? No page. No business. You agreed to conditions. You still didn't choose them. What's the difference? You want access to me back. You don't want the work unless it purchases access. That isn't true. You canceled counseling when I didn't forgive you fast enough. You asked Paige to return when I didn't let you into the bedroom. You called my family when I wouldn't protect your version. Every time one place stopped giving you comfort, you tried another door. I was falling apart. I know. And you watched. No. I stopped catching. The restaurant continued around us. A birthday candle appeared at a table near the bar. Someone clapped. The couple in the booth had moved from countertops to cabinet hardware. Daniel picked up the pen and turned it between his fingers. What happens now? We end the marriage honestly. His eyes filled. You want a divorce. I want us to stop calling this temporary. What if I keep going to counseling? You should. What if I change? You should do that too. But it won't matter. It will matter to you, to Beth, to everyone you haven't met yet. Change doesn't become worthless because I don't stay to supervise it. He looked toward the empty chair beside him. I left that seat open. I noticed. I wanted you to know. The chair was never the whole betrayal. I understand that now. I think you understand it tonight. What does that mean? It means understanding while you're afraid of losing me isn't the same as living by it when nobody's watching. He put the check inside the leather folder. I don't know who I am without you. The words hurt because they sounded like love and dependence in equal measure. You need to learn, I said. And you? I'm learning too. He signed the receipt. Outside, the air was colder than the night of my retirement dinner. The restaurant windows glowed behind us, reflecting the parking lot lights across the glass. Daniel stood beside my car. Can I hug you? I nodded. He held me with both arms. For a moment, my body remembered before my mind did. My face fit against his shoulder. His jacket smelled like the cedar blocks from our closet. I almost told him to check the garbage disposal at the apartment. Then I stepped back. He let me. I am sorry, he said. I believe you're sorry. Just not enough. Sorry isn't measured by whether I stay. He looked as if he wanted to argue, but didn't. I got into my car. Through the windshield, I watched Daniel return to the restaurant alone. He had left his phone on the table, the same habit I had corrected for years. I did not follow him. Ending a marriage turned out to involve more cardboard than revenge stories admitted. Daniel came to the house on 2 Saturdays for his remaining clothes, tools, and the boxes he had stored in the garage. We divided kitchen equipment with an absurd seriousness. He took the expensive blender he had used twice. I kept the cast iron pan he claimed was too heavy. We argued over a floor lamp neither of us wanted. "Your sister gave us that," I said. "She likes you more. Then I've suffered enough." He laughed before he could stop himself. So did I. The sound hurt, but it did not change the decision. Daniel returned to counseling with a different therapist. I knew because he told Beth, and Beth told me only after asking whether I wanted to know. That small question mattered. His business did not collapse. Real life was less tidy than punishment. It became smaller. He postponed the expansion, hired someone to manage scheduling, and lost 2 large renovation jobs after missed follow-ups. He stopped describing the company as something he had built for me. Paige transferred every account and stayed gone. Months later, she sent me one message. "I'm sorry for what I chose. I'm not asking you to answer." I didn't. Silence was not always avoidance. Sometimes it was the complete response. Beth did not speak to Daniel for several weeks. Eventually, she met him for coffee after he left a voicemail that contained no version of the phrase "crossed a line." She refused to tell me what they discussed. That mattered too. My mother took longer. Ruth continued suggesting that 18 years deserved more consideration, as if I had misplaced them in a crowded drawer. Then Cal confronted her after she repeated Daniel's claim that I had been waiting for retirement to leave. He had an affair, Cal told her. Stop interviewing her for the role of cause. Ruth did not speak to either of us for 3 days. On the 4th, she invited me to her house for coffee. Her yellow kitchen had not changed. Same lace curtains, same ceramic rooster beside the stove. The cordless phone rested in its charger. She poured coffee and added too much milk to mine. "You take it darker," she said. "Yes, I know that." She made another cup. We sat at the small table where she had helped me complete my first enlistment paperwork while telling me I was making a mistake. "I used your strength against you," she said. I did not answer. "You were always the one who could handle things. When you didn't complain, I assumed you weren't hurt. When you did complain, I thought you should handle that too." The ceramic rooster smiled at nothing. I defended Daniel because if what he did was unforgivable, then I had to admit I was asking you to tolerate something I wouldn't have tolerated. Why? Because I'm afraid of people leaving. There it was, not an excuse, a fact. "I'm not father," I said. "I know. You keep waiting for me to disappear like he did." "Yes, I left because I had a life, not because I wanted you punished." Ruth wiped one thumb along the edge of her cup. "I'm sorry," she said. It was not a dramatic apology. No tears, no request to forgive her immediately. I believed it. Belief did not erase everything, but it gave us somewhere to begin. Cal and I kept the appointment calendar. He still accused me of taking over when I color-coded it. I accused him of entering dates without locations. Denise muted the group chat whenever Ruth had dental work. At the food bank, 3 days a week became exactly 3 days a week. Dana enforced it. When I stayed late, she stood beside my desk wearing her coat until I became uncomfortable enough to leave. Raymond learned the location codes but continued calling B3 sad oatmeal. Eventually, everybody else did too. I kept seeing Andrea alone. I learned that rest did not always feel restful at first. Sometimes it felt irresponsible. Sometimes it felt like sitting on a park bench while my mind listed useful places I could be. I sat anyway. The idea for the dinner came from a woman named Nia Brooks, a Navy veteran who volunteered at the food bank on Thursdays. She mentioned that a friend was retiring after 20 years and had no family nearby. "We could do cake in the break room," Dana said. "Absolutely not," I told her. Marisol, overhearing, raised one eyebrow. "This seems familiar." We held the dinner in the warehouse meeting area after closing. Folding tables, white paper cloths, grocery store flowers. Nothing polished. 4 retiring servicewomen came. One brought her partner. Another arrived alone and hovered near the doorway as if she might leave before anyone noticed. Raymond had ordered a cake that said, "Mission continues." "Better?" he asked me. "Marginally." Dana served the first slice to the woman whose retirement we were celebrating. Nobody made a speech about sacrifice without naming hers. Nobody announced what she would do next. When she said she didn't know, we let the answer remain hers. I noticed the woman near the doorway had taken a chair at the far edge of the table, half outside the conversation. I picked up the empty chair beside me and moved it next to hers. "Is this okay?" I asked. She looked surprised, then smiled. "Yes." I sat beside her.